Hello and welcome to the GPVWC Supercup. We're here in Hungary this time around, and I will welcome you to join us for this beautiful race, or two races in fact, with me, Kacper Kołodziejczyk, and as my commentator, Ben Willis.
Hello everybody at home. Yes, welcome to Supercup round 9 here from Hungary, and well, after last time, Kacper, at Silverstone should be a really close, really brilliant bit of racing.
Oh, this should be absolutely fantastic. We've seen some amazing stuff 2 weeks ago here in Supercup. And this race could be quite interesting. Also, I'd like to mention that on cameras we have David Fidock the same way as last time, and we'll definitely want to thank him because, of course, without our cameraman, we can't do what we do. And yes, it should be absolutely exciting, and we have some exciting weather possibilities here in Hungary.
Yeah, I've just been keeping an eye on the forecast even, and we have about a 45% chance of a thunderstorm. In saying that, though, I've just looked and it's shot up to 81%, so I think we may have a bit of rain coming in very soon. If it stays away, though, it's about 31 degrees on track, so it's really hot. These tyres are going to struggle, so that should make some crazy strategy, hopefully. And it'll be interesting to see if the storm does hit.
We'll have to see, because I have seen that the clouds have actually run over the sky for a little bit, and the track has actually become a bit darker now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually seen a bit it even darken up a little bit more and even start raining sometime soon. But yes, there's still a while. There's still a good bit to go, and of course it'll be even more interesting if it actually happens during the long race. And it could play into the strategy, considering we heard something about the tires not quite possibly lasting half the race.
Yeah, the rumours I've been picking up is, again, a bit like Silverstone, we may see a two-stop from some people, and that's really due to the high temperature. Hungary isn't really that high degradation track, but the high temperature here is really sort of playing havoc with tyre life. So it'll be interesting to see. Everybody is now on their qualifying laps, and mostly everybody is actually on that soft tyre. Only one I can see at the moment for the live timing is Edward Batala in the racing team Stroton car. He is out on the mediums, and so is Matt Strand for Satellite. So two cars there out on the medium tyres, otherwise everybody out there on the softs.
Yes, and I think it's a fair choice, especially if we're going to see any rain coming in. I think it's a fair choice to not risk it and be fast at the beginning of the race anyway. But from the practice we've seen before the race, we've also seen that some drivers were leagues ahead of the whole pack. Namely, one of our race leader or winner from two of the last two races in the last weekend. And that's Alex Siebel, who's gone fastest, but not as fast as in his practice yet.
Yeah, so he's on a 22.8 at the moment. We've seen a 22.7 out of him. So there's time to improve there, as I'm just watching a rather beaten up Mazurek racing car there for Wutke Hoekstra, who's just managed to get back to the pits with no front or rear wing. So it looks like he's had an off somewhere on his fast lap. As he hasn't pressed escape, he can come back, get the car repaired and go out again. So no big issue there, but otherwise it's sort of as we expect at the top. Siebel up there with a really fast lap, and then you've got Jeffrey Fournier just behind him on the 23.1. He looked really good at Silverstone, didn't quite get the strategy right in the feature race there. He'll be looking to bounce back, and he's doing well there with that second place in qualifying.
I think it'll be exciting, and I think Fournier will be looking for that win definitely. And I'm seeing Dino Paolini just absolutely destroying the first sector, about 3/10 quicker than Alex Siebel. This could be an amazing lap if he keeps it going.
Yeah, brilliant lap. He's just come through 6 and 7 there, through 8. We'll be watching for his Sector 2 time. That's just as you sort of come onto the back straight, really. But yeah, 3 attempts ahead in that first sector is really solid. He's just coming over the second sector split now. It's a 28.2 for him. That's a personal best. Not the session best though, so let's see. He's going to be up on his own time if he can stitch together this final sector through the last few winding hairpins here, 13 and 14.
To me, it definitely looks like a lap for challenging for the top at the moment. He only lost about 2, maybe 2.5 tenths in the middle sector, so it's all even, and he's 1 tenth down. And that is the second fastest lap we've seen this weekend. Well, second fastest, apart from Siebel's last lap. But yes, it's Siebel and Paolini so far with the fastest times. The only drivers to so far have gone into 22s. And we are seeing most drivers already having some laps banked in. And something that I think we have seen a bit of in practice, and we're seeing that here as well, is how tight is this field?
Oh, it's really close. I mean, what we've got to remember, though, is as Paolini has a big moment through 4, just saves it. He took too much curb there and went into a bit of a half spin. But yeah, as you say, it's quite a short circuit here at Hungary. Only about sort of 2.6, 2.7 miles. So it's, there's not much track length to lose time over. So naturally, that grid is going to be quite close together. Just going back to Dino Paolini, he did lose that 1 tenth in the final sector. So otherwise, he's pretty much even with Alex Siebel, so interesting to see if he can get another clean lap in, see what he does. As Kilk moves up to P5, and he's got a session best sector 3 there with a 24.8 in that final sector. So really nice performance from him, P5 with a 123.3.
I'll tell you something though. I think Alex was blocked, or not blocked, but he had traffic in front of him throughout at least a good bit of the lap. And as he was coming back to the pits, he had a lot of traffic in front of him. So I think Alex, who just did begin his next qualifying lap, I think he has a lot more in him, and he has a clear track. Although there's a car in front of him, he will be hoping that he's not going to make a mistake, and he can just use this clean air and possibly get an even better time, and possibly an unchallengeable time by anybody else. Which, to be honest, by practice, it looks like he can do it.
Again, that's the problem with the short track length here, is traffic can be a real issue with your qualifying. As I was reading on Wikipedia today about the track, has been likened to as sort of Monaco without buildings, because it's so small, so tight and twisty as well. It's a really sort of a downforce-centric track. You're not worried about top speed. But yeah, traffic is a big issue, as Siebel, he's done a personal best sector 1. We'll just watch him as he comes towards the sector 2 split now.
That was less than 1 tenth slower than the fastest lap of or fastest first sector, and his middle sector is very, very fast indeed. It is going to be a time of a mid-22 if he can keep this up. Can he actually pull it off in the last sector and not make a mistake? I think he actually can. He's coming onto the last final corner, and I think he's able to keep it going, and I think it is going to be a mid-22, and I don't think anybody is going to be able to challenge this. And it is a 22.695, the fastest lap of this session and this weekend so far.
It's a solid time, but watch for Tobias Politex now, who has just done a session best sector 3 on a 27.79 through that second sector. So let's watch him across the line as he exits turn 14. Little bit of wheel spin, but a relatively clean exit on the DRS across the line, and he goes second. Oh, really close. Less than a tenth in it, actually, up to Siebel on a 22.77. So really holding up at the front there.
That's some fantastic stuff. And drivers seem to be very quick in their own sections. There doesn't seem to be this kind of a I'm fast all around thing with the drivers. They're very fast in certain sectors and then losing in others. So, for example, Polotczek was very fast for middle sector, but he lost 2 tenths for the first sector and then lost another tenth for the final sector. So, to be honest, I think it's just a matter of Siebel is just very consistent for the sectors. That's just all I can see from it.
Yeah, he's putting in some really good laps at the front there. I'm just looking who else is doing well. Dennis Jordan has improved with his last lap. He's gone P4 with a 123.0. He did personal best in sector 1 and 3. Otherwise, Muscat is improving. He's just gone P12. That's for Zederit Racing, 23.5. Michael Bernard improving as well from P18. Let's see what he can do across the line as he comes through the final sector. It's sort of really windy last sector, really slow. It's all about hitting the apex, getting really good exits from the hairpins. As he comes onto the straight, DRS wide open, and he is going to improve, but not much in it really. He's going to stay around P17 on a 25.2.
So, yeah. 23-2, is it?
No, 25-2 for Mike Barnard.
Okay, yeah. That's still a good bit off. But who's the fastest driver on medium tire right now? Or is there? Or sorry, hard tires.
So that would be Eduard Batala. He's down in P20 on a 1:26.7. So the split is about 4 seconds from pole. And he's closely followed by the second of our two medium hard tyre runners at the moment. That's Matt Strand on a 26.79. So they've got their own little battle there, but they are a bit of a way off. And this was a remark that actually my drivers were making to me. And their justification for a two-stop was just the gulf between the soft and the soft and the hard tyres. I keep calling it mediums because of the Super League show. But the soft and the hard tyres is so large.
But Ben, we have seen the same thing in Silverstone. The gap was very similar, although, of course, the lap is longer. And we have rain. David Fidock has just gave us the information that it is actually starting to rain, and I see the droplets. Oh my God! I think this is not going to change. Well, basically, the standings are now set, aren't they?
Well, it depends, because I think you've got better vision than me. I can't see much rain from my side, but I'm going to go for a graphical glitch on that one. But if it is indeed raining, that rubbered line's going to rubber away. Apparently, Mr. Cameraman David Fidock is saying it's absolutely chucking it down, so I'm going to blame my R-Factor install for that issue.
I can only just about see it if I'm standing still. It is not the most rainy, but I can definitely see a little bit of, maybe not even spray, but a mist behind cars, which would definitely signify that we're starting to get a little bit of water onto the track, and I think at that point we're not going to see much of an improvement.
Yeah, well, the problem is now I just see Jeffrey Fournier drop it out of turn 1, got on the AstroTurf on the exit, and he spun right on the racing line, and I can see rain now, so definitely a bit of rain now. It's going to start washing away that rubbered line that nobody wants. The problem there is this is going to carry over into the race, and we're not going to have optimum grip at the start of the race, which is not too ideal for tyre life. They're going to be leaning on the tyres a little more, not what people needed. And of course, if the track is wet enough, we could see some wet tyres out there.
We already have wet tyres on the track, and that's Tobias Polotzik. I think he felt like trying the tyres, but I don't think he's very fast on them.
I don't think it's well enough yet, but I think it is a good idea now just to gain some data, because that track's not going to be fast, is it? I can't see anybody improving over time. So yeah, let's see what happens. See if he likes the tyres.
I mean, he's sliding all over the place at the moment. I think he's sliding more than he would be on ice on slicks. So I don't think it's wet enough yet at all. So yeah, Polotzik is just going sideways everywhere, and just the tyres are not going to help him.
Yeah,
so
a couple of people are coming to the pits. Boyer Milan pits from P8, so does Jason Muscat P14. Tom van der Voort in the Dre car, P16 as well, also into the pits. So a few people just deciding to stop their runs now. I don't think they'd... Well, if they got out now, they could probably get one lap in, but there's not really much point with the rain now.
No. Especially, I think the rubber's just about to get washed away, and it's only going to get harder. I can actually see it falling harder and harder. And yeah, I think we can basically call Alex Siebel the pole sitter of this race. Well, this is not too surprising now, is it? Considering we have seen his pace in practice in the last few races.
Yeah, he's looked lightning fast, hasn't he? And a 22.6, he's improved from practice, so definitely got that lap hook together. Yeah, not much more to say really than a really good performance. Tobias Polotzik there in P2 for Evolution, another solid performance there. And Wupke Hoekstra, the first of the two Mazuriks, completing a second row lockouts. Also a really good performance from them. Yeah, some really stunning laps at the top.
So Jeffrey Fournier in 6th. Sounds like a little bit of a disappointment to me, to be honest.
Well, it's only the third row, isn't it? I mean, it is tough to pass at Hungaroring, but one thing I will say is, historically, we've seen a lot of big first lap accidents here at Hungary. There was a big one in the second Formula Challenge race yesterday. I think it brought out a red flag, actually. There was a big crash on the grid. So, really, it's about staying clean on that first lap, isn't it? You don't win a race into the first corner. So, for him, it's going to be get through that first lap and then work on a decent strategy. That's where he lost it last time in Silverstone. So, if you can nail that strategy, who knows, he may get a few places back.
Yes, of course. And you can definitely, you can win a bit. Not, of course, you can't win the race outright on the first corner by any means, but you can win quite a lot. And on a track like this, it does count. However, yes, you have to be consistent throughout the race. You have to try and gain positions. And to be honest, we have found already that in simulators, and especially here, it's not as tough to overtake as we see in real life at the very least. I'll be perfectly honest. It seems like it's a bit easier here to, if you're faster, to actually overtake. Definitely. But even that, with that, this is not an easy track to overtake, just because the corners are kind of tricky to get right, even on your own.
Well, it's a lot of successive corners, isn't it, on quite a narrow track, so you really have to set up your overtakes from a few corners before. It's not like we've got a long straight where you can just sit in the slipstream and dive down the inside into the corner. So it's all about sort of precision driving here. As the checker flag has dropped, nobody is improving, understandably, as it's quite easy to see now. There's a bit of spray coming off the tyres as they run offline, so track's definitely quite wet. Should make for an interesting warm-up, I think. I
think it would be very interesting, and Jeffrey actually did put it into the wall as well, coming out of it, one of the fast corners. So I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's finding the grip to be quite sufficient for him right now. And to be honest, it is very difficult to drive on wet when you're driving on slick tires, isn't it? In our Factor 2, it is one of the worst moments when your wet tires aren't quite there yet, but you're already sliding all over the place on slick tires.
It's that horrible crossover point, because to yourself, you know you're probably just about faster on the dry tire, on that dry line. But the problem is, if you try and pass someone, especially I speak from sort of a more of endurance racing background, if you're trying to pass someone or lap a car and you have to go offline, then you're going to have no grip at all. And it's like you're driving two different circuits at the same time, which can be an absolutely horrible feeling. So I think what we will see in warm-up, if it continues raining, is a lot of people trying to work out where that crossover point is. You'll probably see a few people stay on the dry compounds, a couple try the wets, see what it's like on and offline, and then they'll have to form their decision for the race. The interesting thing is, if the race director classes this as a wet race, then you won't have to use both tyre compounds. So just a thing to bear in mind there.
You know what's also another interesting thing? If it keeps on raining, the whole I'm going to try and start on a hard tire from Edward Patala and Matt Strand is going to be absolutely useless. Because they're going to start on the wet tire like everyone else, and they've put themselves in an uncomfortable position of starting in the last rail.
Exactly. Well, it's a bit of a roll of the dice though, because to be honest, looking at the weather forecast, up until basically qualifying started, it was a less than 50% chance of us getting this rain shower. So it was a tough one, and obviously they've tried to gamble. It's not looking like it's going to pay off. I think this will start off as a wet session declared by the race director, in which case you won't have to make that tyre compound change that is a rule in our feature race. In which case then it's basically flat out driving and making sure you can sort of make that wet tyre last a reasonable distance.
Now here's a quick question too, because I haven't actually read up on this. If we have a wet race and it is declared a wet race, is there still a mandatory pit stop regardless? Or is it you can try to make these tires last until the end of the race if it's wet enough?
Good question. I personally haven't fully read through the rules on that. I would assume that the mandatory pit stop only applies to a tyre change, and thus if you don't have to make a tyre change, you don't really have a reason to stop. You know what I mean? So, I personally can't see the rain tyres going 40 laps. I think they're quite a soft compound. I think they'll wear out quite quickly. And what we've got to remember is, even though it's raining, it's still 30 degrees out there. So it's a hot, sort of like muggy kind of weather we've got here. So I don't think you'll get a zero stop out of it. Someone may try if they drive really carefully. I've just seen this right kilt going for a massive crash out of turn 3.
Ooh,
but yeah, it may be worth a try. I can't see it happening myself though.
I need to actually look into it anyway. I'm going to quickly jump into
you go and do that. You go look them up, and whilst you do that, I shall read out our penalties from last round. That gives you time to read the rules. So, from last time out, we have 4 back of the grids for today. These are from cutting and qualifying. As we explained last time, we do have a rule here at GPVWC where if you have 3 or more tyre contact patches even over the white lines at the end of the track, you're going to get a back of the grid. So it is back of the grids for Eduard Batala. Well, he's only going to move down one position, so no big loss there. It's also back of the grid for Wesley Stefano in the Hints Motorsport car, who did qualify P18, so he's going to drop down a bit. There's a back of the grid for Carlos Fernandez, who is not with us at the moment tonight, so if he does turn up, he's got himself a back of the grid. And back of the grid for Tom van der Voort in the Drake car, so he's going to drop a bit from his P15 at the moment. We also have Terence Grech is going to get himself a 5-place penalty. That was for avoidable contact during an incident, and that was in race 2 over at Silverstone. He's not with us at the moment, so that will be hanging over his head until he joins us next time. And the other one to comment on is Gerard Batala, who is not with us today. He has himself a race ban, and that is from an incident over in Monaco, where he unfortunately deliberately drove into another car. I think it's Antonio Hranovic, and that initially was going to be a 20-place grid penalty, but it has since been increased to a race ban in line with penalties from last year. So that's all your disciplinary actions for this time. We've got about 2 minutes left in warm-up. Majority of people out there on the wet tyres, so let's see how they're finding it.
Yes, and I quickly took a dive into the rules, and I can only see, as you say, a rule about requiring both compounds. There's not even a word of pit stop being mentioned anywhere in the entire rule book for this series. So,
interesting.
yes, there are references to pit lane, but not to pit stops. There are only references to the tire compounds, and the reference is that rain tires nullify the requirement for both of the dry tire compounds to be used.
So basically, if you start on those wet tires, you don't have to do a double compound switch. Basically,
technically, you can finish the tires on the tires to start if it's a wet race. Technically,
fair enough. Well, whilst you are talking about that, I think the majority of people out there are on the wet tires. I'm just looking through actually. There are 2 people who are at the top of our time boards actually who are not, and that's Dennis Jordan and Wright Kilk. Now they are about 6 seconds faster back to the first of our wet tyre runners, which is Michael Bernard at the moment.
Dennis Jordan just crashed.
Dennis Jordan's just crashed, so that's not ideal. And Boya Milan has done a 35.7 on wet tyres, so a gap of only 7 tenths there. We are pretty much in the crossover. I would say, though, it is wet tyres just for safety, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you'd nearly feel more comfortable, because on a slick tyre at the moment, not only will you feel that the car is dancing everywhere, you'll also not, even if the dry line starts to show up a little bit for whatever reason, you're still going to be bound to that line and that line alone. And again, in overtake maneuvers, that's absolutely not the way you want to be driving. Leaders, you're fine. If you have a big gap, you're fine. But in this series, I don't think there's going to be a massive gap anywhere.
I think we're going to have rain all night, my friend, by looking at the forecast. It's an 81% chance of rain for the next hour, dropping down to 56% till, yeah. It's looking, it's so wet out there, isn't it? We're just coming out to the end of warm-up, and our cameraman, Mr. David Fidock, has mentioned a point. Is it too wet for the wet tyre? Kacper, discuss.
No. Considering people still drive on the slick tires, I don't think it's too wet for the too wet for the wet tire, unless the wet tire is literally useless. And to be honest, we have seen that around in some other areas.
In the Super League, for example. But no, I think it's basically going to be a case of who has the most delicate right foot. We don't have anything like traction control here. We don't have any kind of driving aids, so all down to driver skill. You're going to be so careful putting the power down on the wet tarmac, as we are slowly going to tick over to the race a minute. If you are hopefully watching, we are we are streaming over 2 streams on the GPV website, on the GPV YouTube even, and on the SimNews.TV YouTube. Drop us a comment if you're watching with your thoughts. If you've got something to say about the action in the race, and we'll try and get them read out during the race.
Okay, the last couple comments actually on GPVWC comment section. We had Jeffrey Fournier actually comment for us. He says, I talked about drink party waiting for the rain in the race, not in quali. And that's a reference to a little joke he has made on the GPVWC Discord earlier, that he wanted to stop after lap 1 and wait for the 39 laps on the wet tires as he's chatting with us. I don't think it's going to work there, mate. I think you're going to be on the wet tires. And then the next comment is, I presume it is something to do with this, but it's James Kirk with, it's like a malfunctioning microwave.
Okay.
Okay.
Not sure how that makes any sense, but if James wants to enlighten us with that reference, then go ahead. If he wants to provide us with alcohol, feel free. Please don't try it, drink and drive, but we're commentating, so it's fine.
Well, to be honest, it's a drink party. It doesn't exactly have to be alcoholic beverage.
Touche. Although Jeffrey Fournier in the race chat has just said, prepare some beers after his imminent crash, so well, he's not holding much hope.
Oh, I honestly think, hey, it could always be like our friend commentator Josh. Yeah, I mean, he's into non-alcoholic beverages, so
he does very much like a non-alcoholic beverage. We are still waiting to tick over though from this warm-up session, and the problem is it is still raining, and that track is getting wetter and wetter by the second, which is not ideal, and I think is pretty much going to insist that we start on a wet compound. The option is still there to start on a dry compound, but personally, I think you'd be a bit crazy if you did.
I honestly think you're about right. The only redeeming factor for you starting to on slick tires would be not having to pit. But in that case, are you going to be losing time? If not, then I'll raise serious questions about the wet tire. If you're not fast enough, then why would you bother? Because seems to be a rain that's going to keep up for the entirety of at least the first race, at least with what you were saying.
Exactly, yeah. I think by the looks of it, it's going to be raining for most evening. It depends, though, when we have the cars on track, hopefully they'll start creating a dry line and we may have this balance where the track's not getting any wetter because we have cars going around. So that will be interesting to see. But as we are about to tick over into race, Kacper, shall we pick a race winner for this one? I think it's going to be a tough one.
Oh, it's going to be tough. So we have the... Well, you could always go safe with... But I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go completely left field Dino Paolini.
Interesting. I shall join you on the left field, and I will go Dennis Jordan, I feel, because he did set some nice laps on those wet tyres during warm-up, and obviously he's going to have a little more experience than the people who didn't run it. So
that's very interesting. Also, I just realized that Tobias Polacek and Dennis Jordan are in the same team, so they're in a really good position with the two Mazuri cars in between them.
Exactly. We got 34 seconds until our formation lap starts, and not many people on the grid, so a lot of people are waiting out to see if it does continue raining and to pick that wet tyre. Because of the plugin we use in our Factor 2, it takes about 30 seconds for the weather to sync up, so that's why a lot of people are waiting to see if it does continue raining, and if it does, then they'll choose their tyres from that. And indeed, the rain is back.
The rain is back. I don't think that starting on a dry compound at the moment would be a smart idea, but I think it's just our lifetime not updating properly. Well, there's one driver who's mad enough to start on a dry compound, and that's David Tapper in 12th place. But before we go into that, let's go through the grid. And starting from pole position, Alex Siebel, he has been having some absolutely fantastic races over the last couple of weekends, and great performances. Tobias Polacek alongside him, we've seen some great qualifying from him back in Silverstone as well. Wopke Hoekstra following with his teammate to his side, Dino Paolini in 4th. 5th place for Dennis Jordan, with Jeffrey Fournier in possibly disappointing 6th, but to be honest, with rain, this could be very good still for Jeffrey. Stefan Ruolt is in 7th, with Borja Milan in 8th. With Wright Kilk in 9th place and 10th for Chris Shepard. We have Edgar Ruiz actually missing from the grid, so he's going to start from the pits, it looks like. So he may be waiting to maybe get a bit of an advantage. Then we have David Tapper in 12th place, who is on the dry compound and is already struggling, so I don't think he's done the right thing to go on the dry compound. I don't think he's going to be too happy with that. Antonio Relejanovic in 13th place, with Jason Muscat alongside. Argenis Riera, quite disappointing considering how much we've seen him do well in practice sessions. He's in 15th. Rob Mason in 16th alongside Riera. 17th for Michael Bernard, with 18th for Matt Strand. 19th for Tom van der Voort. 20th for Wesley Stefano. And finally, Eduardo Batalla in the back and also on a dry compound.
Yeah, I think very brave calls there from Dewey Tapper and Eduardo Batalla. Tapper out on soft tyres, Batalla taking his hards that he qualified on. And Edgar Rui obviously didn't take to the grid, so we'd expect him to start from the pit lane. I'd be very surprised if Tapper doesn't dive into the pits, so let's keep an eye on that. Otherwise, leaders lining up on the grid.
Tapper indeed is diving into the pits. I think, honestly, as soon as he felt that he cannot keep the car on the track because he has been all over the place as I've seen him on the formation app, I think it was quite clear he needs to change the tires, and so does Eduardo Batalla.
Yeah, yes. Right. Here we go then.
As we're about to start the race for the first race here at Hungary. Still waiting for the cars to line up properly. Oh, the excitement. It's taking the lights a while, isn't it?
I wonder if it's holding because the two people dived into the pits. Here we go then.
2, 3, 4, 5, and here we go. The start of the race in the wet. This looks like a great start from Siebel, although Polottek is falling slightly behind Hoekstra. Hoekstra holding, and Polottek possibly attacking on the inside, but Hoekstra just breaking late behind. We're having fairly clean start. Side by side, a bit of contact with Shepard and Muscat, but nothing serious. Behind that, we see Batalla, Ruiz, and Kacper already out of the pits and dealing with everything okay. It seems like a very calm start so far, but we do have a bit of fighting with Polottek and Hoekstra going side by side through the end of Sector 1 and into Sector 2. Fighting for that second place. Polottek is holding on to it, but is he going to be able to hold on to it until the end of the lap? I think he is.
Yep, looked a very clean start. All credit to the drivers in what is pretty tough conditions. Loads of spray, so hard to see. Otherwise, it's pretty much line astern, isn't it? Hoekstra was looking to get past Polottek, but Polottek made a mistake out of the chicane there, and he's gone a little wide through 8 and 9, but regains everything. He's lost a bit of distance to Siebel there, though.
Yes, Hoekstra has actually made a bit of a mistake as well, as he was trying to defend himself, and it nearly looked like Jordan was going to go for a move. But what has happened is Paulini has lost the place to Dennis Jordan, all that madness. So Jordan up a place to 4th, while everyone else seems to be fairly calm in a nice little train.
Yep, Van der Voort and Stefano are up a couple of places thanks to the two pitters in front of them. So Van der Voort 14th, Stefano 16th. And Tapper is out there in 18th now on the dry tyre. I say that, but yeah, Van der Voort just lost it out of 13, and he's going to keep it going. Just looked like got the power a bit too much on that wet track and put it into a half spin.
Some tough conditions. We can definitely see drivers struggle, all of them, in these conditions, and you really have to be so careful. And there is a battle for 7th indeed. There is Ruel going by Fournier. Fournier is not going to be very happy with that. But great move into turn 1, and remember, there's no DRS yet, but we haven't even mentioned where DRS is going to be opening.
Yeah, there'll be no DRS because the wet tyres are out there and the track is over 50% wetness, I'd say, by eye. So, yeah, it just looked like Ruel had to lean on Fournier a little bit through turn 1, but relatively clean move, and obviously it's really tough conditions out there, so, yeah, great driving there.
As Ruiz goes through Stefano, although goes wide, nearly spins it, and Tapper has to avoid Ruiz coming back onto the track. They're back in 16th place. That's, as they go actually sideways. Tapper is struggling on the tires. This far back, but they are fighting for what could possibly turn out to be a point or two.
Exactly. It was always tough to try and make a pass into turn 4, even in the wet. So, interesting move. Whilst Wupke Hoekstra seems to have moved up to P2, and indeed he has. He's got past Polottek, and that looks like it was
there's contact between Jordan and
big contact, yeah,
and Paulini. So it was Jordan goes around. I think actually Paulini drove into the back of Jordan. Not great to see, but then Jordan back down into 9th and keeping very close to Muscat right now. It nearly looked like he's going to make contact himself there. But very unlucky for Jordan, and I think that was a bit too eager from Dino Paolini.
I think he just had a little wobble, didn't he, under brakes, trying to get it stopped. Just went a bit too hot, and unfortunately tapped Jordan round. But that leaves Paolini P5 under attack from Fournier. Whilst we go and have a look at P9, what have we got going on there? Well, we got side-by-side action. Horenovic's out on the curb. He got a little shoved off there by Boyer Milan, trying to heavily defend. Well, that's P10 now, isn't it? And now Horenovic under attack for P11. And that is from Chris Shepherd, who is resurging from towards the back of the grid.
I think he's going to do. I think he's doing pretty well so far. And I think this weather is probably the best weather you can hope for when you're starting at the back of the grid. You just have all. It's all about being the driver in this. It's the drivers. Not all drivers like driving in wet. I'm personally not the biggest fan of it personally, but that's probably because I'm not the most talented driver. It really shows that somebody has a lot of talent. Shepherd makes a bit of a mistake and is under attack from Vieira, but Vieira just not quite able to get it through the chicane. It's so tight that even when you make a mistake, people just have to slow down. They just can't overtake you easily, can they?
Exactly. It's such a narrow, bumpy track. There wasn't really a car's width there for Vieira to have a look, so he thought better of it.
As we have a bit of a train going for 8th place now, Muscat is under a little bit of an attack from Dennis Jordan. But then Dino Paolini is not too far in front of Muscat either, so it's really just a train for 7th place. And Muscat nearly trying to show himself into the final corner. And it looks like, honestly, a single mistake from any of the drivers could mean that they lose a position or two, because this is so very close. And it's just one massive train. As behind, I think I'm seeing a couple drivers nearly trying to go side by side. And that's Vieira and Shepherd, but not quite. And we have a Kacper in front in the pits with no wing. That I wonder what happened there. Could you check the?
I shall go and have a look for you. And oh, he's dropped it out of turn 13, and it's almost a bit like Van der Voort, except he's gone into the other wall. So he hasn't gone inside. He's actually sort of like. It's the car just snapped on him on power, and he's going to the outside wall.
Yes, and we have a battle for P18 apparently here.
Van der Voort had a spin into turn 1. Again, exit turn 1. He's really struggling with putting the power down.
Yeah, it does seem like a very difficult...
Oh, but that was good off the front end. Sorry to jump over you, but oh, that was very close. Exit of 3, got onto the AstroTurf, half spun it, stuck the brakes on, and Van der Voort had to scooch around the outside.
Matt Strand has actually made a mistake through the chicane and gone into the grass.
Van der Voort's off again at 4, into the grass as well. What happened to Matt Strand?
He made a mistake for 6 and 7. He has gone off and gone onto the grass and just couldn't quite get it back on track safely, quickly enough. And now he's struggling with the car overall to just keep it going on the track. I think it's only getting wetter right now. And just looks like such a difficult track to drive. And Muscat makes a mistake, and Dennis Jordan attacks him for 8th place. They're actually going side by side into the final corner. Oh, God.
We've got P2, Hoekstra defending into turn 1. Polotzik looks to the outside. There's going to be a gap there. Can he hang it around the outside? Don't think he can. It's going to be a bit too wet, and no, it's just too wet on the outside. Hoekstra has the faster line and leaves turn 1 holding his 2nd place. I think
it's just too wet everywhere. You just you have to keep your line. And if you attack, you really have to be sure you do it on the inside. Otherwise, you absolutely have no chance at this point. It seems like the grip levels are just so low. And
exactly. Oh, Stefano went a bit too deep into turn 2 and almost took out his teammate in the Hints car in front of him, Chris Shepherd. That was very close.
So it's interesting because I've heard that Hints cars, there was only supposed to be one of them, but it seems like they actually managed to get Wesley Stefano in as well. So I'm quite happy with that. Always good to see a bigger grid, and we have 21 cars driving here today. And we have all of them still driving, would you believe?
Yeah, very good. Like nobody's put it in the wall yet, so it's really good driving.
Well,
yes.
We have had some contact with the walls. We just haven't had a terminal contact.
Exactly, yeah. Meanwhile, Ruault is going to have to start thinking about defending from Fournier, who's been slowly closer for P4. Fournier has actually set a sector and session best for Sector 1. Plus, he also holds the fastest lap on a 37.0, so it's going to be one to watch, I think, for P4 in a bit.
That's also been done on the last lap, so I think he's pushing it quite hard. So I think Fournier is quite good, but he's just not had the luck in the qualifying. He's not quite had the initial bit of pace to hold off Rule. But now Rule has to really watch out, because if Fournier comes back, he could be in a lot of trouble.
Exactly, yeah. He's just got to keep an eye on Fournier because he is lapping pretty fast. But at the moment, the problem is you can't really pass offline. It's more a case of who makes the first mistake, really.
Yes.
There's sort of only one line into every corner, which is the driest bit of tarmac.
You know what? Here's something interesting, right? What happened last lap to Zeeble? Because he was a second slower than everyone around him. So is Zeeble not quite dealing with the pace well enough, or is he trying to play it safe? And the gap was over 3 seconds at one point, and now it's only about a second and a half. Is there problems for Zeeble? Is he not quite confident enough on the track? Or what is happening with Alex?
I tell you what, I'm just going to flick through his last lap just to see if he did make a mistake anywhere. Most of the lap looked actually pretty clear.
It's slower than his last couple laps, but only by half a second. He's not actually lapping very quickly at all. I think he's just lacking quite a bit of that pace, as we have Jeffrey Fournier off. We have Fournier off, and we have Van der Voort in the pits. So what happened there? Van der Voort with foul at the front wing.
Fournier's was a disconnect. It was mid-corner, and it's just dropped on him.
So where did Van der Voort actually crash it? I think he must have crashed it quite early on in... he crashed in the chicane, did he? No, he must have... crashed in 5.
Oh, that's not a nice place to lose it, turn 5.
No, he lost the front wing. Although, is it only me, or can I see a little bit of sun coming out? At least getting brighter.
I think the drivers would like that, to be honest. It's very wet out there, and yet you're right. Van der Voort did just drop it out of turn 5, so he's now down in 20. Will be 20th once he's got past the lack of Jeffrey Fournier about. Meanwhile, though, Zeeble is still sort of holding a 1.5 second gap at the front, isn't he? He's not pulling away anymore. He's maybe just not feeling too confident out there. But you're right. There is a bit of sun.
Yes, this could be interesting. And races always get a bit interesting when you have a drying track, especially when you have a risk of rain coming back, because you don't really ever know if you should be changing onto the dry tire or if you should be staying on the wets and hopefully keeping through. As we have a battle for P18, David Tapper, for P18, David Tapper just going by Edward Batalla, it looks like. Or Edward Batalla is attacking Tapper, one of the two. Either way, both of them are battling here a little bit with each other. They're fighting for the second and third to last place. And as Batalla spins it out of turn 2.
Turn 3.
Turn 3.
Turn 3. It's so easy to do, getting on that AstroTurf on the exit of it. I was about to say if Tapper was going to drop it, because he did exactly the same thing, but just managed to hold it. So Tapper has a little bit of breathing space in P18 now. Yes. Oh, and Michael Bernard off as well, and that is at the 6-7 chicane. I think, again, he's just on the same thing. He's just spun it on the curb.
Ooh, curves can be very tricky when it's wet. It's I don't think it's as we see it in real life, where they literally just run away from any curb possible because it's just so slippery. Yep. But it's still... it's always tricky on a curb in R Factor 2, and it can be even more so when you have less grip because you're driving. It's basically like driving on ice. Let's be honest. It basically is like driving on ice.
Definitely. Worth just saying as well, Jeffrey Fournier has rejoined the race, but he will be now 2 laps down on the leader, so
I don't think
not too good. What I will say though, actually, is I think it's drying up out there because the live timings has just absolutely lit up with a load of personal bests for everybody. And
I think you may be right.
I think it's still raining, but I'm wondering if it's eased off and we're just starting to get a little bit of a dry line. You know, session bests, personal bests even from Zeeble, Hoekstra, Paolini, Jordan Milan, Hrenovic, and we've just had a session best from Ruaut as well in Sector 2. So, time's starting to tumble a little bit.
I'm trying to see if I can actually visually see any dry line forming, and I don't think I quite can. Also, we have Chris Shepard that has lost his front wing. Where did this happen?
Looks like exit of 10. Yeah, again, he's just got on the AstroTurf and spun it into the wall, and that is, yeah, just before turn 11. Just coming towards the end of the second sector, and just a case of getting on the AstroTurf and losing it.
Yes, he got a bit of an AstroTurf and then just lost the back end, tried to bring it back, and then just couldn't. Also, Stefan Ruled, with the fastest lap of the race, has just gone a 1.5 seconds faster than Alex Siebel in the lead. And he's only 2.5 seconds back.
Yeah, he's really putting in some fast pace. Now, it's weird because you look at the cameras, it doesn't look very dry. You know, it doesn't look like it's drying up at all. It looks like it's as wet as it has been. But, you know, looking at the live timings, it's personal best all over the place. So, I think that rain is just starting to ease a little.
So, Ben, let's just look at the lead for a second, because Wopke Hoekstra is less than a second behind Alex Siebel. And this is visually closer, but then I think he actually had a little bit of a wiggle, and now Polocek is just on the back end of Hoekstra, who has Ruel to worry about. This could be an exciting fight for the win.
We've got a lovely little train up front, and that was, who was that off? At turn 11. That looked like Van Voort. Oh, Dewey Tapper's gone over front way again. How many times has he pitted? This is crazy. But as you were saying, we do have a little train forming up front. Hoekstra has been consistently a couple of attempts faster than Siebel per lap, so interesting to see what happens there.
So far, it looks like Kacper. This was either Kacper's second or third pit. I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit tough to discern from the live timing.
Well, I mean, Zederick will be going through their repair bill pretty quickly in that car.
Oh yes. No, thankfully it's not Super League where you actually. I don't even know if in Super League you actually have to pay for your repairs during the race, but...
I don't think so, but the point stands. You don't want to use that many front wings.
No, not at all.
Meanwhile, second place, Hoekstra is going to have to start thinking about defending from Polocek. But interestingly, they're both sort of dragging each other closer to Siebel. Gap is still about 1.5 seconds.
You say that that's 0.8 of a second now.
And now it's a 0.8 of seconds. They cross through the first split, so Siebel's really losing out in that first sector, and they are coming up on Tapper, so a bit of blue flag traffic as well.
Oh, this could be very interesting. It could actually be a bit of a problem for Siebel. And to be honest, traffic on this track is a massive pain, considering this track is so tight and narrow that it's nearly impossible to even let someone go by.
Yep, the problem is though, Hoekstra can't think too much about catching Siebel because Polocek is all over him as they run up into turn 12. Is Polocek going to look for a move? No, he decides to stick on that racing line and just sit in all the spray, and it's really going to be hampering their vision as well. You really can't see much when you're sat in that kind of spray.
You're saying that, but he's still keeping within a second.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong, he's doing a brilliant job, but he's not making massive inroads, is he?
No, I think it very much depends on the sector, because the first sector we have seen Alex Siebel being a bit slower, as thankfully David Kacper does let them go by on the start-finish straight. It's probably the best place to really let somebody by, except maybe for after turn 3. It's a very dangerous track to let somebody go, especially in wet conditions, because if you let somebody on the outside, they can just accidentally slide into you. If you let somebody on the inside, well, if you're on the inside, and it will, you can compromise and not be seen well enough, or seen as taking the racing line. It can be very difficult on this track.
Yeah, whilst you were talking there though, Wesley Stefano has retired, and that looks like from P15, and he just dropped out of turn 13 again into the wall and said, I've had enough. Hits the escape button, and he is done for this race. So only one Hints car going. That's Chris Shepherd, P16.
And David Fournier is gone as well. He's gone for
Fournier's gone again, isn't he? He's dropped connection again. Not good for Fournier.
No, Fournier, I think, is going to have this race as a race to forget. And this also hampers his next race. Because remember, only the top 6 to 10 drivers get a reverse grid in race 2. And he is definitely not making it into top 6 with a retirement.
Exactly. Yeah, not good for Fournier. That sort of scuppered his aiming a little bit. Meanwhile, though, Alex Siebel has done 2 personal bests in sector 1 and 2. He is on for a very quick lap here, and a session best as well from Dennis Jordan down in that's P7, isn't it, for Dennis Jordan?
Yes, and now this is interesting, right? I didn't even think about this, but this has great consequences for this race, because Jeffrey Fournier was our championship leader.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Fournier had 4 points of a lead.
Yeah, that's all gone, isn't it?
I think he's going to have a slight deficit of 21 points after this race. And if Alex Siebel is this quick and keeps it going, I wouldn't be surprised if this was into the 30-plus point margin after race 2.
You're right, but you know he's not exactly pulling away from Huckster, isn't it? They're very equal on lap times. There's about, half a tenth in it last time around. 37.0 for Siebel, plays 37.19 for Huckster. So not much in it. They're not making the kind of inroads they need. And of course, we don't know if they have to pit yet. We generally don't know the life of these wet tyres. So interesting to see what happens in terms of pit strategy.
I have been making that joke about them lasting an entire race on these tires, but honestly, at this rate, they can. I don't know. It was so wet that I would be surprised if they got used in any way up to this point.
Exactly. We just don't know really. It's first time personally we've seen the wet tyres in use, so we're not fully clued up on their usage. Meanwhile, Huckster just still defending for Polotczek. Polotczek just can't make any kind of inroads though. It's very much a little bit of a train for second place.
Oh, the sun is shining through. So, I think we have quite a bit more. Yes, I can see broken clouds. I can definitely see some blue sky. This can be a drying track in just a matter of minutes. Well, it's already drying, but drying even more without any rain, hopefully.
The problem is, it's still raining though, so it depends what happens in terms of the temperature, in terms of the intensity of rain, and looks like Joey Tapper has retired as well, and that again is just a standard retirement. I think he's
he's still in the server, so I do see it as a normal retirement. If he wasn't, yes, he's retired actually over a minute ago. We haven't just seen it. Van der Voort was in pits again though, as I see now as well. Don't know if it's for damage. Doesn't no, I think he spun on the.
I think we may have just lost Kacper there slightly, but Tapper did spin out of turn 4. He took too much curb on the inside and just got on to the runoff and spun it into the inside wall.
Am I back?
And Kacper is back.
Whoa! I don't know what happened there, to be honest.
Oh, we got a battle for P3. Sorry. Ruat was looking all over Polotczek into turn 12 there. Couldn't make a move, but he's really showing sort of intent. Keeps ducking out of that slipstream, either trying to get some vision of the corner or to try and make a pass. It's tough to say.
All this is also playing into hands of Siebel. Of course, he's already 3 seconds up the road from these guys. And Polotczek nearly made a mistake, it seems like, out of the final corner. It really looks like possibly Ruold could be trying a move, but he's a bit too far. It looks like that train is so close that a single mistake would give you a position. But Ruold is literally on the back end of Polotczek now, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ruold was going for a move.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you want the bad news with the weather? There has been an active advisory notice sent out for the Hungaroring weather station. We're going to be having thunderstorms until midnight local time. So, meanwhile, Antonio Hrenovic has just been passed to P10 by Argenis Riera, and that was the inside of turn 1. Hrenovic just went a little too deep, and Riera went straight up the side. Hrenovic, though, is going to look back into 2 there, just a bit too tight and couldn't make that move stick. So, Argenis Riera in the racing team straight far. Meanwhile, P3, what's happened there? Polotczek's off.
Polotczek is off, and he's still in 4th place.
Right, so he's gone off at turn 6, and oh no, so I'll try to work out that. Is that Ruout? Ruout went up the inside, locked up, and basically just cut off Polotczek. And they both tangled and went off. So Polotczek's recovered better out of that. He's recovered to P4, shooting over the gravel trap. Meanwhile, Ruout was facing the wrong way, so he's now in P7. Just a bad move. They were both trying to avoid traffic, so they were sort of 3 wide going into that corner. But nasty.
Okay, here's a couple interesting news from Jeffrey Fournier. We have him in the comments here in GPVWC stream. And we have a couple comments. How much can he be unlucky? He disconnected from the server, but he didn't even lose connection to the Discord voice server. This looks like a very unlucky disconnect to the server.
That is unlucky, isn't it? So it's not like his internet's gone, it's just one connection to the server. That is so unlucky. You know what that has... what has happened though is Seabull has suddenly shot off into the distance. He now has a 4.5 second gap over Hoekstra.
But now Hoekstra is having a clean track and doesn't have anyone behind him. So I wonder if he's going to try and maybe pick up the pace. Although, to be honest, what could have happened was Wopke was pushing so hard and Alex was just saving tires that, again, the tires, the same thing we've seen in Silverstone. Alex could have just played it perfectly and kept these tires going for longer than anyone, and could be keeping them going and try to make maybe even one less pit stops than anyone, or make it a lot quicker at the end of his stint before he goes on to the next set of wet tires.
The absolute masterstroke if he did. The problem with this rain is the lap times are so long. We've only done 15 laps out of 14.
Oh, there's Bernard on the grass.
Oh, Bernard on the grass again. Meanwhile, Paolini, who is up to 4th after all the dramas in front of him, he is having to defend a bit from Polotczek, who's trying to fight his way back. He has got past Polotczek there.
I don't think this is... yeah, this was a massive side-by-side thing going through that turn 14, I think, isn't it? Yes, so... I think it's interesting how without DRS, the front start-finish straight isn't actually a place where they attack for the most part. It's usually the places where you least expect them. The heavy brakings in the very twisty section.
It's bits where people are making mistakes, isn't it? Through those twisty seconds where you've got to hit every apex, and people just miss them slightly because of the rain, and that's where opportunities are arising. As Michael Bernard is in the pits.
And we
P17, I think.
That could be damage. Also, we have one more coming from Brett Metcalf. As he just told me here, that for what it's worth, the testing he did in wet, his tires lasted for 38 laps. Although he's saying he's slow. Out of 40, this could mean that, I'm not sure, and if you could let us know, Brett, how far down were the tires, were they usable at the end, or were they literally at 0%? Because it could mean that either we definitely need a pit stop, or some drivers may chance it and go for the entire race on one set of tires.
That'd be really interesting if it was a case of a zero stop. Basically makes this just a straight out sprint, doesn't it?
Makes a little mistake, and he has Polotczek on the very back end of him right now, coming through the final corner. This could be a slipstream battle on the start-finish straight. Let's see if he can hold it. Polotczek very, very close behind Paolini. This is not a very long straight, but it could be enough. He's closing in slightly, but is he going to go for a lunge on the outside? I don't think this is going to work. This is not grippy enough. No, he can't quite manage it. But behind
there's battles behind as well.
Jordan just fighting with Ruold, and Jordan still in 6th place, Stefan Ruold in 7th. Not quite able to get through, but he was so close to doing so.
That is actually a change of position, I think. I think Jordan went up the inside route, didn't he? Or am I wrong?
Let me see.
No, I'm probably wrong. I think I was wrong. But yeah, you're right. They were battling side by side into turn 1, and Ruold is still looking behind there. He always had a little wobble through 4, but keeps it together. And all of this is bringing Boya Milan and P8 into the fray. Okay, I'll tell you what it was.
It was a Ruold overtaking on the straight, then diving in too deep, and then an undercut back from Jordan. So he was actually defending, but it looked like he was overtaking. Also, apparently from Brett, the tires were marginal and it was extremely difficult. So I would assume that the drivers will be pitting him for tires.
Edouard Batala's been off. I'm not sure where that is, but he's just gone off into the run. That looks like turn 11. Yeah, turn 11. So exit of 10. He's had a really weird wobble. He hasn't even touched any curbs or anything. He's just gone off, touched the Armco barrow, and slid across the runoff on the exit of turn 11. So hopefully he hasn't done any suspension damage or anything, but not good for the car in P16.
It's never good to hit any wall, to be honest.
Oh no, he spun again, exit of 14, and he's really slow on the racing line, but he's got it going, and avoids not getting collected. Dennis Jordan in. Dennis Jordan pits in right now. Is he going for new tyres?
I think he's going to go for a new set of wet tires, because even though we can see some sun, I don't think this is dry enough to go onto a slick tire, is it?
No, that's definitely wet tyres, and indeed he does stay on the wets. Relatively long stop. Maybe he took a bit of fuel as well, and he hasn't fuel for the whole race. So, nevertheless, he's going to exit right into the battle for P9, which is Muscat and Hrenovic. They're going to be almost 3 wide through turn 1. Muscat holds off Hrenovic for P9 there, and now he's right on the gearbox. Dennis Jordan, who's going to have cold tyres, battling into 2. But Jordan makes a bit of a questionable defence there, but nevertheless holds P8.
I'd say the rules would still be in favour of Jordan. He changed his line once and came back onto the into the braking, so possibly on his side, but it was marginal.
Fair dues. Rob Mason is in, and that is from P14, and that will be again for a set of wet tyres. I'm just seeing he's looking at his rear tyres, and they are so blistered. Blistered.
I think it's still early. It's 17 out of 40 laps. The drivers should be attempting to get at least into the 20 lap region, considering the track is not going to get any easier on the tires, and if it gets any more dry, you'd think that the tires are going to get even more worn even more quickly.
That's very true. I mean, it's the same compound at the moment, isn't it? So you really want to do half and half. I'm just looking at Seabull's rear tyres as well, and there is a lot of graining on them. And there's a bit of graining on the front tyres as well. So expect to see if he can get halfway. Meanwhile, Tobias Polotzek's come in, and that was from P5. So he is the first of our sort of top group to come into the pits. And that will be for a new set of wet tyres. Again, the rear tyres are so grained, just from constantly spinning up and trying to get traction. And he exits the pits as Edgar Ruiz is disconnected from P14.
I think he was already out, and he actually crashed again and then retired. So he has actually retired from the race due to contact with the wall.
Antonio Hrenovic is into the pits as well for a set of new tyres. That's from P10, slips down to P11. Let's see where he is on the exit. Wondering if he'll get ahead of our Genus Riera. It's going to be really close on pit exit. They're almost side by side into turn 1. And indeed they are, and Riera's going to turn straight across into him. I don't think he saw him at all coming out of the pits there. But Hrenovic's going to hold P11, so yeah, I'm not sure if Riera saw him or not. They were side by side, so it may not have been in the mirrors.
I think Jeffrey Fournier has a good point. Lap 20 will be extraordinarily busy in the pit lane. And I think he is very right, because I think everyone will have the same idea. Unless everyone has the same idea to pit on lap 19 to avoid the pit 20 cluster.
Well, there is a fair point here. Do people try and pit on 19 and therefore have some clear track to get a fast lap in, whilst everybody who pits on P20 are going to be together? And therefore there'll be a bit of traffic jam and a slower lap. So there is the potential for a minor undercut here. Not as much as we'd see on, different kinds of compounds. Usually say at Silverstone, but there is maybe the potential for a small undercut.
Possibly a tiny one, but it would definitely not be for Alex Siebel, since he has a clean track with only 6 seconds in the bank. I think Wopke Hoekstra definitely far worse of the tires, and I think I have called it. Alex has been slower earlier on in the race, but he's been so good on the tires.
We saw that at Silverstone, didn't we? He was an absolute master on his soft tyres, making them last long enough. Meanwhile, Jason Muscat has taken a trip into the pit lane from P9. He's going to lose a couple of positions on the exit. Question is, will he get out in front of P11? Antonio Hrenovic, who's just coming across the start finish line now. Yeah, he's got a good couple of second gap there as they come into turn 1. So, yeah, new set of wet tyres there for Jason Muscat.
So that's lap 19. So no one else is really trying that undercut we were talking about.
Well, I don't know. Keep an eye on Tobias Polotzek, who's just done a session best Sector 1 on a 33.0. Compare that to Siebel's last Sector 1, which was a 33.5.
That's impressive.
He's getting some time out of those new tyres. So, but it depends how long that sort of speed boost, per se, is going to last. As Siebel carries on and goes around again on lap 20.
That's very interesting. I think Polotzek is going to possibly undercut at least one driver as he goes fastest in the middle sector as well. He goes a 2 and 2/10 quicker in the middle sector alone than Alex Siebel. This could be a challenge for possibly not a lead maybe, but definitely a challenge for the top 3.
Yeah, Ruau and Milana in front of him, so Polotze is going to regain P5. He has a little bit of a wobble on the final corner, though. It's still going to be an improvement, but not the fastest lap. Oh, no, it is the fastest lap overall. So it's a 36.28. And that's quite a way, isn't it?
Oh, my. And Dennis Jordan is also doing very similar lap times, so I think the tires are now paying off. But the problem is, Alex Siebel is still not in. And I think with the amount of time that he was losing, well, I don't think he's going to quite be there. I think Polotzik is actually going to be coming out second and not too far from Alex.
It's going to be really close, though. Last time around, wasn't it? Siebel did a 38.2, and obviously the fastest lap for Polotzik, 36.2. So 2 seconds. Now, if he can keep that up, 2 seconds a lap, Siebel's going to be in trouble here.
Oh, and I think he can. Another 5/10 of a second in the first sector alone. Tobias Polotzik is on fire. He's doing an absolute cracker of a job.
The only problem is, by pushing now, how much is he taking out of those tyres towards the end of the race?
Siebel.
Yep, Siebel's in.
Siebel coming in, and I think he has the lead in the bag anyway, because he had such a great lead by the end of the...
Hoekstra, sorry to cut over you. P2, Hoekstra spun on the entrance to the pits. Let's hope he hasn't done any damage to that car, otherwise it's going to be an extra long pit stop.
Well, and right click from third place as well coming into the pits. And I think Tobias Polotzik has just about won himself the top 2.
Whoopers missed his pit box. Again, he's spun in, and he's in a really awkward position now. Hopefully he can get away all right. He did sort of spin across Siebel, who has come out P2. Now, I don't think Paolini's pitted, has he? So, effectively, Siebel is in front and still leading.
Polotzik not quite able to get right click, so he wasn't quick enough to really get onto the podium. Well, he has been able to get onto the podium, but that's more of an issue from Wopke Hoekstra than but right click, he's doing such a great job this race.
Yeah, brilliant drive, isn't he? Effective P2 at the moment because Paolini hasn't stopped. Polotzik, though, is all over them and has been extremely quick the last few laps.
Some great driving there from right click, just not really being on the radar, but just keeping there, doing his thing, keeping his laps going, and now he has an ultra fast Tobias Polotzik on his rear wing, and now I think Tobias is actually going to go for a move, and I think luckily is going to have to concede this place at some point during this lap, because just look at that speed from Polotzik.
Yeah, this is a case of Polotzik has got those tyres up to temperature now, hasn't he? And he's confident on this set. I say that, he had a massive wobble and almost clipped the turn 11 barrier on the exit there, so very lucky. Maybe not as confident as I was just saying.
That looked quite close and quite dangerous, to be honest. That I honestly have already seen him in the wall as our leader on track is into the pits. Dino Paolini is going to now filter back in where he's supposed to. But honestly, what Jeffrey said earlier about the whole lap 20 pit lane is going to be very busy. I think Wopke Hoekstra felt that himself because of the awkward angle he had to pit in at.
Yeah, well, he spun on the way in, didn't he? So his tyres were already going to be insanely hot. And then he's gone to brake for his pit box and missed it slightly. Paolini exits P5 in front of his Mazurek Racing teammate Wopke Hoekstra in P6. Had a little bit of a dodgy exit, actually. Just cold tyres and went a bit too deep into turn 1, but nevertheless holding P5.
For that, Alex Siebel has an 8-second lead in front.
Sorry, we got a battle P10. Hrenovic looked to the outside of Muscat, but got a little blocked off there. It's right on the gearbox of Muscat. A little bit of contact through turn 1, but nevertheless, they're all okay. Matt Strand has pitted as well, who was in front of this group, hence why they've moved up in position.
And Argenis here right on the back end of this little group fighting for 9th place. And I think Argenis is doing quite a decent job, to be honest, with quite bad qualifying. I don't know, we have seen quite a good good practice from him before, as Hrenovic makes a bit of a mistake. And is that enough for Riera to possibly make a move? Not quite. Not quite close enough. And again, even you running wide here sometimes is not quite enough for somebody to have a move, because it's so tight.
Exactly, yeah, and he closed off the only possible sort of line of attack for Riera quite quickly once he'd come back on track. So nothing doing there. It's all holding stations. Muscat P9, Hrenovic P10, and Riera P11.
Stefan Ruolt with the fastest lap last time around and 1:35.8. What an incredibly fast lap. But also, to be honest, Red Click is doing really well for himself right now. 1:36.1 compared to Alex Siebel's 1:36.6. So he is gaining time right now. But I don't. Again, it's the same story with the tires. Are his tires going to go up by the end? And Siebel is just saving tires. And it's still 7.5 seconds. I don't think he's going to be able to catch up very quickly.
No, I mean we do have 17 laps, don't we? So it's possible, but he's got to keep that attack sustained and keep chipping away at every lap. And what he doesn't want is his tyres to drop off because he's pushing so hard. So that's something we really need to monitor.
Not quite. Well, he's not quite catching if the first sector is anything to go by. He went 2/10 slower. So it looks like maybe Alex has picked up a bit of pace in those tires, or possibly just rate not quite taking care of his tire. But interestingly enough, Tobias Polosek is not quite able to keep up with Rate.
No, he's not, is he? He's only... Well, he's losing 4/10 a lap, wasn't it, last lap? So he is struggling to keep up. As I say that, though, Kilp did go a little wide into turn 12, so he's going to stay a little closer.
But Polosek lost 1.3 seconds last lap to Rate.
Yep, true.
So we're gonna have to see this lap, but to be honest, Rate has really slowed down this lap. And
Hoekstra's off. Hoekstra's off. Sorry, he's spun out of turn 13. He was on the grass on the inside, and he's lost a position. Milan's got past him now, and he's going to have to worry about Ruout, especially because he's spun. He's going to have quite hot tyres as well, so he's not going to have optimum grip as they come across the start-finish line.
I think the only two drivers who haven't actually spun or made a mistake this entire race are Red Click and Alex Siebel.
Well, that's why they're at the front, isn't it? Because they haven't made any mistakes.
Everyone else has spun or been attacked or attacked themselves, essentially.
Hoekstra made another error there as there's a bit more sunlight. Exactly as I say that, the cloud comes back, so commentators curse for you there. But Hoekstra he's not looking settled on these tyres. He's just gone deep into turn 2. Okay line through 3, but Ruout is really starting to catch now.
Yes, and Ruolt has a bit of a thing.
Oh, he's made a mistake! Oh, sorry,
Ruolt made a bit of the same mistake, to be honest. It's just that Hoekstra had a little bit of more of a wiggle there on the AstroTurf. But to be honest, they all both went wide, and I don't think Stefan was in a position to attack. But now, Hoekstra making a mistake through the chicane. Can Ruolt just hold on and possibly maybe have a bit of a lunge somewhere? I don't think he's quite close enough to do it in 13.
Okay, here's a thought. Do you think that Hoekstra has a little bit of suspension damage from when he hit the pit lane wall on pit entry? Because that car does not look settled at all through every corner. He's making just little mistakes and not hitting apexes at all, and just car trying to loop round on him.
It could be that, or it could be him still feeling the tires being overheated from that. Remember how long it takes in our Factor 2 for the core of the tire to actually get the temperature down to a reasonable level after you overheat it. That, as we have a battle for P3, then is wait, Tobias Polosek actually lost 2 places. What happened there?
I wonder if he's had an issue coming out the final corner, because there was a car going slightly. Yeah, he spun out the final corner.
Milan and Polosek side by side coming for turn 1, coming for turn 1A into turn 2. Can Milan overtake him on the inside? Remember, the next corner is to the right, and Polosek can't quite keep him on the outside. And Polosek suddenly, due to his own error, lost 3 places in a span of 3 corners.
Great move from Milan there, just held it on the inside, gave Polosek plenty of space. Nice clean move. And yeah, you're right, I think Polosek is now similar to Hoekstra, just feeling the heat through the tyre is just not going quick enough, and he's got compromised grip for every corner now. So not good for Polosek, lost 3 positions there.
I think he also pushed a bit too early. He went for these tires a lot earlier than most other drivers. He may be starting to feel them a little bit more. As the track, I think, is quite drying up a little bit, because it's not just purely the fuel levels dropping that are responsible for. Well, to be honest, the drivers aren't actually going any quicker now, but they were going quicker until recently.
It's weird. It's like little phases, isn't it, where it keeps switching between. We'll have one moment where everybody is suddenly improving, and then next moment nobody is, and I think that's sort of as you see the rain level changing slightly. At the moment, we're in a period where nobody is improving, track's probably getting a little better again.
I have 2 sectors being improved for you.
Oh, we do. Why is it as I say these things?
We have one from Jason Muscat. Middle sector just improved slightly, but it's not even the fastest sector of anybody. And then we have the fastest first sector from Jeffrey Fournier, who's back.
He's back again for attempt number 3. He must be so many laps down. He is 13 laps. So at the moment, he won't get classified. You need to be within 90% of the race result. So,
but
it is testing though, and you can obviously use all the experience for the second race.
It is very useful, isn't it? It just being kind of up to speed and maybe at the very least getting in front of other DNF cars just to make sure that he's starting a little bit further up in the front. It's not, you know, he only has to do about 5 laps to get in front of Edgar Ruiz.
Exactly. So it's you know, little gains there, and that will help him a little better in the second race. But this first one has been a bit of a write-off for him, unfortunately.
Yes, and he'll be definitely hoping for a better one next race. And this time around, Alex Siebel is already 12 seconds up the road. This is some amazing driving from Alex Siebel this race. He has not put a foot wrong. We thought that he may not be showing the greatest pace in the first stint, but I think so far he has absolutely done exactly what he has to, saved the tires to the degree that he needed to, and he's been showing that he's just an absolute master of these tires.
Exactly. He's been doing pretty well out there, isn't he? Just keeping those tires hanging on there. Meanwhile, Muscat has improved. He's done a personal best lap last time around with 38.0, and a small sector 1 improvement for our Genius Briera down in P11 as well. So, again, a couple of improvements out there, but nothing too major. No,
and I'll be perfectly honest, 138.0 is not impressive by the standards right now, let alone the standards when they were beating their own lap time.
No, you're perfectly right there. So it is Alex Siebel. He's got himself a nice 11.7 second gap at the front. And he's doing everything he needs to do here to win this race. Just keeping it clean, keeping it on track, putting in some consistent laps as well. Right Kilk doing really well in P2. And he has got himself a nice 6 second gap over Dennis Jordan in P3. So it's relatively holding stations up front.
I think now, right now, we're having a bit of a gap everywhere, really. It seems like everyone has just decided to make a little bit of a gap for themselves and just live their life without any worry, except for maybe Dennis Jordan and Dina Paulini, who decided to maybe complicate it for themselves a little bit at some point later on, maybe. Well, Dina Paulini is fairly close, to be fair.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, Paulini, he is within a second, just about. But, you know, as we've seen for most of this race, it's really hard to make a pass without the guy in front making a mistake. So, you know, Paulini will be ever vigilant. And if opportunity does arise, he will try and go for it. But otherwise, he's just going to have to sort of sit tight for a bit, I think.
Yes. As we have Fournier already up to P18. Good job, Jeffrey. Just one more to go.
Yeah, he's plugging away at it, isn't he? So he needs another 3 laps to get past Edgar Ruiz. And we do have plenty of time for that. It's leader is on, what lap is he on? He's on lap 28, so, or lap 29 even. So there's still plenty of time to do that, and Fournier will have P17 to himself.
As we have P5, Milan ahead of Kołodziejczyk. So that's
there was a bit of a gap there, wasn't there? So I wonder if someone's made a mistake.
And actually behind them, I'm seeing quite a bit of a small gap between Hoekstra and Ruold. So we may just about have 2 battles right nose to tail to each other, essentially. And Kołodziejczyk is so close behind Bora.
Yeah, you're totally right. Kołodziejczyk is watching his every move, and Milan's entry into the 6-7 chicane there is not too good, but otherwise he's doing all right with his lines. Kołodziejczyk has really just got to follow him and wait for a mistake now, as Kołodziejczyk himself just gone the AstroTurf a little bit, and that's compromised his exit out of turn 9 as they come through turn 11 now onto the back straight. Look to pick up a slight bit of a slipstream, but not much as they come into turn 12.
Yes, then right behind them, it's literally just 2 identical groups, isn't it? Except that at the moment, Ruold is holding even tighter towards Hoekstra. I do think they can overtake on the long straight, because I think
not with an exit like that from Kołodziejczyk. He's lost a lot of time out of turn 13.
But Ruold is still keeping very close to Hoekstra. He may be challenging for a little bit of a move. He goes onto the AstroTurf, and I don't think he has quite the speed and quite the gap to overtake on this straight. Yes, he's about 5 car lengths behind.
I think, unfortunately, for anybody following in this group, it's a bit of a double whammy in that obviously the wet track is not helping your exit out of corners, but also you're following a car in front, so you're dirty as Milan makes a mistake. Sorry, into turn 2, he's gone completely wide, locked up, and that's given Kołodziejczyk an opportunity. Yeah, and Ruout's through, isn't he, into P7?
Wow, Kołodziejczyk going on the inside of turn 4 is no, not quite. This
wise decision, I feel there. Always that could have been
so. That is a 1-car corner, and even so, it sometimes feels like it's a half-car width corner with how tight it is and how off camber it is. But look at this group. It's actually 4 cars nose to tail now. It's going to be an exciting end to the race with these.
Milan made another little mistake there into turn 8, and that's let Kołodziejczyk get really close. The problem is, though, Kołodziejczyk can't take another line to get past him. He's having to stick right with him.
I think it goes a little bit sideways as well. As we see a little bit of the sun, can we... Here's an exciting thing. What if we see a dry start to the second race?
I think we need the rain to stop a little more first, to be honest, but yeah. you never know. Again, Milan does not look settled there, does he? He's making just the odd little mistake. Watch for a good exit from Kołodziejczyk.
Oh, he has a good exit. Can he actually hold it for the final corner? Because if he can, he could be challenging here for 5th place. He could be getting a few places more as Milan makes a little mistake. He has a bit of a wiggle on the exit, but he has the speed somehow. Even though he went sideways, he has the speed to keep going. As behind, Stefan Ruolt has put a bit of a gap in front of Hoekstra. But this group of 3 now is still holding station. Absolutely not an inch given to anybody.
I think for a moment, Bojan Milan thought he was driving Formula Drift out of that final corner. It was an amazing drift, perfectly controlled, and got a great exit out of it as well. It's everything that shouldn't have been and suddenly happened, really.
It's not really what you see in Formula cars very often, is it?
No.
These cars, remember, these cars are not that much slower than something like a Formula 2 car. Actually, they're about the same level as a Formula 2 car, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Of course, the modern Formula 2 car, which really is just GP2. So
exactly.
Yeah, these cars are not slow. So, and they have a lot of grip. So for somebody to go sideways is absolutely incredible and not lose time or speed.
Yeah, it's really good. Going back to the point I was making earlier, the problem for anybody following Milan now is not only the wet weather, the spray, but there's also dirty air we've got to factor in here. There is turbulent air behind Milan because he's pushing through clear air in front of him, and that means Kołodziejczyk, Ruout, and Hoekstra, who is falling back a little bit, but they just don't have the grip that they would have in clear air, which is not helping them out of corners. And that's probably why we're seeing Milan just managing to cling on a little bit, really, as they come over the line to complete another lap.
I have good news for you.
Yeah,
Jeffrey Fournier has just passed that Garleaf.
Go on, Jeff. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Now for literally nothing. You literally can't do anything.
Well, he's 11 laps. He's got to find up to Tom van der Voort P16. I can't see him doing that, to be honest.
Not expecting that.
But Milan is still heavily defending Kołodziejczyk, and he did make a little mistake into turn 1, just went a little deep, but nothing that Kołodziejczyk could capitalise on, really.
I think honestly, at this point, unless one of them makes a massive mistake, there's not really going to be a way for him to overtake.
I think you're right. It's basically going to be holding station, isn't it? But then we've seen all the cars there in that train flirting with disaster at some point, so you never know. Kołodziejczyk may try and make another move.
Yes, and I'm actually very, very impressed by Right Click Kilk. He is already 8 seconds up the road from Dennis Jordan and 13.5 seconds behind Siebel, but he's not been losing very much.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we saw this Right Kilk put in a really good performance for Red Archer actually in a Super League in our top tier here at GPV. And the few races he did on the emergency contract, he did actually look really good. He put in some really solid performances, and we've seen that again from him in the Super Cup. He hasn't done the full season. He missed the first few races, but he's looked really good in that Multiforce car. And we should remember it's a Multiforce 1-2 at the moment with Siebel and Kilk.
Actually, you're very right. That is an absolutely fantastic result for this team. And at this rate, who is Jason Muscat, who's also racing here, is their manager. So I think he's going to be quite happy.
Sorry to cut across you. Rob Mason's in trouble. Exit of turn 3. He's got no front wing, rear wing, or front right wheel. Oh,
I think that's over. I think that is the end of the race for Rob Mason.
Oh, that's horrible. He's got a little loose out through turn 3. Like, I think he's clipped too much of the entry curb, and that's unsettled him onto the curb on the outside. The car's just rotated, and he's actually clipped the bit where the tyre barrier starts, so it's pretty much going into a solid wall. Oh, and that's ripped the right-hand side of the car off. I see exactly what happened. He didn't even really clip that curb. He was near the line, but not quite across it. But what happened was he had his left-hand side tires loaded, and he was already spinning before he touched the curb. And then on the curb, of course, you have even less grip. So as soon as he hit that, it was just all over. But honestly, it was actually over before he even got onto the curb. It was already spinning. Providing they get to the end, then that's going to mean points to Edouard Batala and Tom van der Boer. And no, Fournier's gone again. He's retired again. No. He wouldn't be able to get points anyway. Maybe he has just parked it then. He has parked it because he's not out of the... He's actually not out of the server. He's still here. I think all he wanted to do was literally just pass Encaroui and then finish the race up there and start in a better position. A sensible choice for the second race then. And you know what? I'm actually... I should have read the comments because that's exactly what he has said. There we go. He's telling us our plan there. So that will mean everybody who's still running will get points. So such is the attrition rate in this rather wet affair in this first race here at the Hungary ring. Meanwhile, though, the battle we did have for P5 is sort of quietened down a bit. Polocek not following Milan as closely. Oh, yes. For a second there, I thought there's a bit of a battle, but it's just Van der Voort letting Hoekstra go by. It really looks like the entire race has calmed down a little bit, hasn't it? The only person I can see that could be under a little bit of pressure would be Antonio Relajanovic. Polocek's been in trouble. Sorry, Polocek's been in trouble. He's spun out of P6. What's happened there? Because Royal and Hoekstra got past. What's happened? Oh, no. Turn 4. He's got loose through turn 4 and got onto the AstroTurf. Spun it. He hasn't hit anything, nor has he been hit by anybody. But he wouldn't have done his tyres any good. And, I'll be honest, I don't think this race is going to be anything to remember for Tobias. He's still in 8th place, to be fair, after two spins, one incident with Ruwalt. I think Tobias has had enough accidents for this weekend. My only worry is how much damage did that do to the tyres, and can he get to the end of them? Because, of course, he was one of our first pitters, wasn't he? He pitted around the sort of 16 lap 17 mark, so he's already on older tyres compared to the likes of Siebel, Jordan, Paolini. So interesting to see if he can get to the end of them. Well, let's hope anyway, because another pit would definitely mean him losing at least all the places until 11th. So he would definitely lose quite a lot by just pitting in now. He has about 17 seconds on Argenis Riera, and then behind that is Matt Strand, who's a further nearly 30 seconds. So I think he would be fine with 11th place, but 11th place is still far worse than 8th. Exactly, so let's hope he can get to the end with no pit stop. Meanwhile, P3 is a little close, isn't it? Dennis Jordan and Dino Paolini, they were around 4 tenths actually at the start of the lap. That has now since expanded to 9 tenths, but still relatively close to the final step of the podium. It's very close, but to be honest, it's again one of those stories where Jordan has to make a big mistake to really let Paolini through, isn't it? And they've been actually very close to each other for the last while. So I wouldn't expect anything there. The only thing I would expect is Bora Milan is actually very close to Paolini now, or getting closer at least. And if anything, that could pose a bit of a funny situation with Ruwalt as well there, and could make us see a massive battle for 3rd place technically. Exactly, yeah. So that's definitely going to be one to watch. Now about 8 tenths, isn't it? So it's holding station there. Again, going to be a case of who makes the first mistake, really, isn't it? Which is a repeated theme we've seen all evening. Oh, I've just seen all the comments. Oh, that's suggestive. Anyway, yes, hashtag blame Shepherd. What is that for now? So somebody is blaming Shepherd for... I have actually no idea what. Well, let's reserve judgment till we see why. I mean, Shepherd is on his own in P13, so something to be picked up after the race, I feel.
Yes, and then we, Carisi, I'm not actually sure who you are. I'm terribly sorry. He is saying that he'd expect rain to stop soon, but to be honest, we have talked about it, and we have heard of a warning for thunderstorms until midnight, which is in 50 minutes, I think.
In saying that, though, that is our race director himself, Mr. Chris Williamson. So we tend to treat his word with gospel. So
okay, yes,
if it does think the rain's going to stop, then well, we'll hold him to that, because that can make for a very interesting set of conditions later on.
Okay, I didn't know this race director. Okay.
It's fine. It's fine. P3 still pretty close though, about a second now, so it's still holding station. But I think Paolini's just starting to struggle a little bit with following Jordan. Plenty of sunlight out there though, so maybe we are going to get some dry weather.
Yeah, it does. I can still hear the rain, but I can't really see it as much. I can see bits of it, but I can't actually properly see it.
We may actually have a little battle for P10. Antonio Hrenovic only has a 3/10 of a second gap over Argenis Riera. Now this has been a battle that's sort of been kicking about all race, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think Antonio's going to have extended it as he comes into the second sector splits, but they were certainly pretty close through the turn 6 and 7 chicane. The gap is now up to 1.4 seconds. So Riera is struggling to follow through that sector 2 where you need that downforce across the car. Dirty air really not helping there.
No, not again. This track is, as you mentioned, a Monaco without belt. As we have Kołodziejczyk spinning again with thankfully not losing a place, but he did I think get overtaken by Tom van der Voort.
Unlapping himself, wasn't it? Yeah. It's a weird one. It's just a half spin out the final corner. He wasn't online, to be honest. He's quite away from the apex. I think he's gone to put the power down, and because he's offline, he's on the wetter tarmac, and just pitched into a half spin, and those tyres really are going to be begging for a bit of mercy now.
Still making mistakes, going onto the grass a little bit, coming out of trees, still sliding all over into 4. He's going to have to nurse this car home now, because I don't think pitting in with 4 laps to go is a smart idea, to be perfectly honest.
If he pits in, he would lose a position to Muscat, Hrenovic, and Riera, I think. So they would drop him to P11.
Which will definitely mean that he will not be on the list for potential reverse grid pole setters. Exactly.
So, really for him, it's going to be survival. Muscat is looking pretty confident now on those wet tyres. Doing a 38.3 last time round. Of course, Kołodziejczyk's lap was affected by spin and did a 43.5. So, interested to see what they do next time around.
We have a 4-car train for the final, which
that's podium spot. So P3, Dennis Jordan yet again having to hold on really, and it's an ebb and flow kind of battle. Paolini is slowly getting closer again, now 7 tenths, but I think it's still going to be a hold station kind of affair. It's not really much they can pass.
As much as I'd like to say otherwise, I think this very much looks like, unless we see a massive spin for one of these drivers, we're not going to see any overtakes. Milan is very close to Paolini, but honestly, Paolini has been holding... Milan has caught up to Paolini over the last, 5-10 laps, but I don't think that we're going to see any overtake unless Paolini makes a big mistake. And Paolini, I don't think...
There's been a change of position, sorry, P10. Riera and Hrenovic are battling, and that's out of turn 1. I think Hrenovic made a mistake, and they're going to be battling into 2. Hrenovic to the outside, bit of contact! He's not going to make that stick, he's going to sail straight off into the wet part of the track. And that's Riera's position. Kołodziejczyk has lost a front wing as well. What's happened to him?
I think he made a mistake, I'll tell you in a second. He has...
turn 3.
Lost it on turn 3. Tried to correct it too much and hit it on the outside. He's lucky if he only has that front end damage, and that is a sad, sad race for Tobias, and he now definitely will lose that possibility of a reverse grid pole position. This is a very... I think he made too many mistakes, too early on the tires, too aggressive. As we have a run by Borja Milan on Dino Paolini. Can he actually make it stick into the first corner? Sorry. Oh, as Paolini spins and nearly takes out Borja as he comes back, but Milan into 4th place as Paolini makes a mistake. And I think that was a great move from Milan, although Paolini has definitely had it on the inside and just completely gave it to Milan.
Well, that's the thing, that wet track on the inside, that's not the racing line, so it's going to be wetter, and I wonder if he just locked up the wheels and just pitched into a half spin. That's not good for Paolini. Połączek still limping home. He's just got into the pits, and that's going to give Antonio Hrenovic back his P10 that he lost to Riera, so he's now in reverse grid contention. Yeah, just crazy scenes, crazy scenes.
And I think, to be honest, that is absolutely crazy. And what could have also happened was Paolini could have been 2 wheels onto the less wet surface and 2 wheels on the wet surface, and just the wetter surface has locked up one of the wheels and the car just suddenly went sideways. That can very much happen if you're not careful enough, and it's very difficult to see where the dry patch is on this kind of a racetrack.
Exactly, as our leader starts his final lap, Alex Siebel, with an 18.7 second gap. Pretty dominant out front. Right Kilk coming across the line as well to start his final lap, and he's got himself a 9-second gap back to the train for P3. Dennis Jordan has himself about a 1.3 second gap to Boy Milan. Relatively comfortable, providing he makes no mistakes. Let's see what this final lap brings.
I think there isn't going to be too much happening unless somebody makes a massive mistake, and we all know that the final lap is usually the lap that a driver either makes the most incredibly challenging moves, let's put it that way, or they go the most securely because they really don't want to crash on the final lap. It's such an embarrassment, and it always feels like such a waste, doesn't it?
Exactly. You're so close from home, you want to keep it on track. Tobias Połączek exited the pits in P11 now, so he is not going to be in that reverse grid contention. 20 seconds down the road from Antonio Hrenovic in P10. A bit of a crying shame there for Tobias Połączek, who was having such a good start to the race, and it all sort of went away from him. But Siebel comes through P12, turn 12, and turn 13.
As Matt Strand is in front of him, is he going to lap Matt Strand on the last lap? Is Matt Strand going to just let it go? Or is he going to go and fight for to keep on the lead lap for the last few seconds? I think he's going to keep it. But Alex Siebel crosses the line right now and wins the first of the 2 races, the feature race, here in Hungaroring in Supercup. What a great race, as he has Ray Kilk, who is going for the final corner. His teammate taking the 1-2 for Multiforce GP. An absolutely fantastic drive from both drivers. Alex, absolutely uncontested. Ray, the only 2 drivers not to make mistakes. And for 3rd place, Dennis Jordan, Bora Milan, and Dino Paolini for the following him. Stefan Roll just slightly behind him. What a fantastic race for top 6. This was very, very interesting, and what a battle. What a crazy race. What conditions. And Wopke Hoekstra comes in 7th.
Yeah, Wopke Hoekstra 7th. Jason Muscat comes to the final corners now for P8, the highest of the Zedricks after his teammate to be Tapper retired pretty early on. So bit of a not the best race for Zedric. I think they would have been hoping for a little better. But that's P8 for Jason Muscat there. Argenis Riera with his first race this season with us here at GPVWC. Of course, he has done Supercup before last year, but it's a very strong P9 after some great battling with the P10 man, Antonio Hrenovic. Nice little race-long battle there. And then, of course, Tobias Połączek, who started so well, and then just a series of errors, and he almost made one on the final corner there as he runs straight across the AstroTurf. P11 for Tobias Połączek, and to round out with your people on the lead lap, and of course, last people to come across the line, it'll be Matt Strand. He comes through the final corner in P12. Rest of your finishes: Chris Shepherd, P13 for Hints Motorsport, 14th for Eduard Batala in the second of the Racing Team Stroton cars, and your last finisher was Tom van der Voort, P15 for Drake Racing.
Congratulations, definitely from our race director going to Alex. And Alex Siebel has done a fantastic job, absolutely uncontested. And now, I think this is a I think this is a great way to start the weekend, and we still have one more race, which, while shorter, it is only going to be 23 laps, might be just as exciting, if not more so, considering these drivers will be needing to make these tires last longer than I had to. And the only drivers who really tried to stick these tires for more than 20 laps struggled a lot. So, and what we can see is technically we can see pits happening in the sprint race.
Well, it's going to be close, isn't it? I mean, we saw in the feature race people pitting from as early as lap 17, struggling with tyre wear, and there's a pretty big difference between the old tyres and the new tyres. Whether they will in a sprint race, I mean, you don't really want to. It's not ideally that you pit, but you
won't have a choice if it dries up.
If it dries up, they won't have a choice, of course. But I am looking at the weather report. Obviously, our race director said we may get some drier running after 10 PM local time at the track. And indeed, there is a drop-off over the next hour. So it'll be interesting to see whether we do get some dry running. But I think it may stay wet for a little longer.
I'm just reading a little thing here from from our boss here.
Oh God, the boss has been on the phone, has he?
Oh, he has. And he has let us know, and that's for all of you viewers. We are, I think, going to do driver of the day.
We are.
So it's simple enough, and that's going to be for you, Ben, to monitor. Because what we're going to do is you're going to vote for the driver, and I think we're going to do it for either race, so please vote now. In the SimNews.TV stream chat, please type the driver of the day of the race for me, and what you think. You could also put a comment of why, maybe, but just the name is fine, and we're going to read it out possibly and see who ends up getting the most votes.
Exactly. So if you just on YouTube, head over to SimNews.TV, the channel there, or you can find our channel via Facebook, SimNews.TV. Yeah, drop us a name of who you think did really well in that race. Personally, I've got my choices, and I'll reveal them a little later on. But I'll keep an eye on that through over the next sort of few minutes and into race 2, and we'll get that read out for you.
It's definitely better for it to happen on the SimNews.TV channel as well, because I'm having a bit of an issue here. Apparently, my YouTube has decided to kind of have a bit of a not the greatest moment.
Bad moment.
It has had an unable to connect to chat. Please try again later for the last 10 minutes.
I interestingly have the same thing, so I wonder if YouTube itself is having a little moment. But we're still streaming. We're still streaming. I think the chat bit may have broken slightly, but keep an eye on that.
So the driver of the day may not be happening for now. We're gonna, but still try to put it in. Maybe the chat will update, and if so, then we're gonna read out what's happening. So just please don't spam the chat too much before this issue comes to a fix. So it must be a YouTube-wide thing. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm noticing the same thing. So I'm going to assume it's YouTube-wide, but alas, give it your best shot. Hopefully it will work. Hopefully I'll get to see him a little later on. Meanwhile, we are heading back into warm-up for race 2.
And I think this is going to be exciting. Now we're waiting for the biggest news, of course. And the biggest news, as always, is who's going to get the pole position.
Exactly. So it's 6 to 10, isn't it? So we have a choice of either Jason Muscat, who was P6, Wupke Hoekstra, P7, Right Kilk. Wait, no, that is not right. That is not the right grid. Ben is reading the wrong thing. Let me go and get the screenshot I just took. So professional. Right, P6 was Stefan Ruout, and then P7 Wupke Hoekstra, P8 Jason Muscat, P9 Argenis Riera, and P10 Antonio Hranovic. So it's going to be one of those, and depending on what the number is called, we'll form the grid.
Am I the only person that thinks that the winners are absolutely hoping to start in 6th place?
Well, given the lack of passing, you
exactly. Oh, and it's the middle of the way. It's reverse grid number 8.
Let's get on pole, isn't it? So that means if Jason Muscat is on pole, he's going to have Wupke Hoekstra joining him on the front row. Stefan Ruolt will be leading up that second row alongside Dino Paolini. Row 3 will be Boya Milan, Dennis Jordan, and row 4 is Reitkilk and Alex Siebel. So, yeah, Siebel's got to fight through 7 other cars to get back up to the front.
It's going to be quite a lot, isn't it? But he has shown an incredible pace, and I think if he can just keep it on track without spinning and without getting taken out, which is probably the more difficult bit for Alex right now, I think he can challenge for either the winner or at least for the top 2. I honestly think that Multiforce has been doing a fantastic job so far, and I think if they keep up their consistency and their lack of mistakes, I think that they're in for a challenge for 1-2 again, to be perfectly honest.
Well, exactly. It's going to be another tough race, isn't it? I can't see this rain clearing anytime soon, which means it's more of the same. We've got to factor in, you know, the high number of mistakes we had from drivers. Obviously, it's super tough conditions. I don't blame that. You know, nobody's going to look bad making a mistake in this weather because it's just so tough out there, isn't it? You can't see anything. There's just varying grip levels across the track surface. And it's a pretty tough track as well, isn't it? So
yes, and that's Tom van der Voort actually just barely keeps it sideways through the final corner. It is such a tough. It's also a tough track, to be honest, because it's so. Yeah, it's so tight. It's so narrow in the end. That it's just very difficult to keep the car going as van der Voort actually spins in turn 1.
I guess in a sense we're very lucky in that rFactor 2 doesn't simulate sort of rain depth in terms of puddles and things like that. If this was something like Forza Motorsport, then we'd have to start contesting about puddles, and given the nature of this track, there's plenty of off-camber corners and really bumpy sections. There'd be crazy water rivers all over the place. It would it'd be even harder to drive.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that Forza Motorsport had that feature. I don't think I've ever seen any simulator do that, just because it would be so difficult to make it dynamic.
It's not dynamic, that's the thing.
Oh, there we
go. In saying that though, Project Cars 2 is going to have a dynamic version of it.
Okay, because I've seen it non-dynamic in Project Cars 1. But then again, honestly, it's still not going to be as probably. Let's be honest, rFactor 2 is kind of one of the major physics power horses, and I don't think Project Cars 2 is going to be overtaking it. Anyway, getting back on track, maybe.
Oh, Fournier's just made a massive error out of turn 3. We've seen it time and time again in race 1, just dropping out on that exit curb on the AstroTurf. We've got a minute to the end of warm-up. And again, most of the drivers here are just going to be using this for extra practice on those wet tyres. It's still extremely tough out there. We don't actually know how wet it is on track, unfortunately. We don't get that data through to us. So if there is a driver in the comments, I was about to say post a comment, but of course they're still not working, thanks YouTube. So we're sort of flying blind in terms of how wet the track is, but yeah.
I just refreshed and it seems to have cleaned itself. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work yet. We'll see in a minute.
Keep an eye on it. I'm not getting a horrible warning message, so that is
good news.
Bit better, isn't it? Oh, no, there's the warning message. Thanks, YouTube. But yeah, 20 seconds to go, and again, yeah, just final bits of practice ready for the drivers.
Yeah, so you'd nearly think that they would need practice, but to be honest, any kind of moment you can get to give it a bit more practice, especially to check if you're comfortable with the fuel levels, is always worth so much.
Also, some people may have made a setup change as well. Of course, second race is not to park firmly compared to our first race where you have to use the setup used in qualifying. Exactly, we can't really simulate it because we have to restart the weekend and stuff. So, but yeah. Open setup technically, so if anyone's made maybe a downforce change or something to help them, then you know, they'll go out and test that now as well. But we are at the end of the warm-up. I
think I had done that in Formula Challenge when I raced once or twice. So.
I've done it as well. If you make a bit of a mistake with the setup in the first race, it is quite nice to have a bit of a more solid second race, really.
Well, and here we go. We're nearly coming into race 2.
Do we pick a race winner? If you even dare pick one.
I think we failed quite a bit last time.
Yeah, quite spectacular.
Really quite spectacularly for my part at the very least. Well, actually, yeah, we have.
I'm going to say Jason Muscat to hold it from the lead.
I don't think there's a way he's going to do that. I'll be honest, let's... Oh, so who's... I'm going to have to see this. Let's
Sorry,
see.
you wait for the grid when we get to the grid, because we'll be moving over to the race session in a second.
Oh no, I've got... Okay, second place starter. Wopke Hoekstra.
Oh, okay. Well, he of course did win at Silverstone from the front row in exactly the same scenario, but as our cameraman points out, he did chew his tyres up a little bit in that first race. So who knows? 23 laps, let's see.
The only other driver I could really think of would be Stefan Ruhl, but I'd say Wopke Hoekstra just because he has that starting position. We'll see. As we have 50 seconds to go, and let's see which maniac is going to take dry tyres this time around.
I think anybody in a sane mind would not do that. Of course, we are waiting for the weather to sync up. As we said last time, it takes about 40 seconds, so nobody's going to dive onto the grid just yet. They're going to wait and see
well, I did say
when the rain comes. Right? You did say maniacs. I really can't see it drying up. I think we've got wet weather till the end now. A couple of people jumping on the grid. Chris Shepherd, Edouard Batala did. They've both shot back to the pits. So, yeah, let's see.
Well, the rain isn't here, but the track is wet. So,
and there's the rain.
There's the rain. And I think, well, it takes about 50 seconds for it to sync up. Quite long.
Yeah, but that's the nature of the wet weather tool, isn't it?
It is. But hey, it's better than nothing as we go off for our second race of the day. This time, sprint race with a reverse grid. And taking us from the pole will be Jason Muscat. Can he do better this race? But although the rest race wasn't too bad at all. Wopke Hoekstra, disappointing first race. Starting second. Similar circumstances to last time around, he may just about be able to do it with Stefan Ruhl. Very disappointing race after his pace being absolutely fantastic this in the first race in many positions, but just a bit of unlucky moments. Dino Paolini starting in 4th place with 5th for Borja Milan. Dennis Jordan starting in 6th, and Ray Kilk starting in 7th place, our second place man, alongside his teammate and the race winner from last time around, Alex Siebel. Can he make it a lot better? I think he can get a lot higher than he is right now. We have Argenis Riera up into 9th place, a lot better starting position than last time around, and I think he'll be quite happy with possibly going up even higher. Riel Janovic up into 10th place. Tobias Polosek, horrible race the first time around. He'll be hoping to get back up. Matt Strand up in 12th with 13th for Chris Shepherd. Edouard Batala actually taking it from the pits this time around. So that's another driver starting from the pits in around that place actually this time around. Similar to last time around. Tom van der Voort in 15th place. He's going to be hoping for a lot better race, but he did score a point. Rob Mason in 16th place. Jeffrey Fournier, that's a driver that had a disappointing race. Just probably the most disappointing race of them all really last time around. Edgar Ruiz in 18th place. And 19th for Michael Bernard. And really far behind somewhere is Dawid Tapper. No, Dawid Tapper is just behind Bernard. There we go. So, Dawid Tapper in the last place in 20th. We're missing one driver from the start of the last race. And
pub quiz for anybody who guesses who it is, because I can't remember. So I'll get back to you on that one. But yeah, everybody lining up on the grid now.
So we're just about to have our 5 red lights light up. One after another.
Stefano, by the way.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here we go. Good start from Muscat. He's holding his position to Hoekstra. Hoekstra just slotting him behind, blocking Ruhl on the outside, but Ruhl's not quite letting himself be. And Muscat goes 3 wide. Hoekstra goes into first. Fantastic move on the inside. Great braking feel from Hoekstra. Muscat braking a bit too early, but Muscat still on the inside of turn 2. He can't quite make it into turn 3. Otherwise, we have side-by-side Riera holding... Well, he's lost a couple positions, but he was fighting side-by-side for turn 2 and 3. This is exciting stuff, and track is absolutely lit up white from all of this water coming up.
Sorry, we had a half spin from one of the satellites there into turn 4. I'm assuming that was Matt Strand, but otherwise very clean again.
Radjanovic side by side with Riera coming into the chicane. Can he stick it? No, of course he can't. On the outside, but he can spin it.
Oh.
And Radjanovic just lost out on a great start to the race.
Yeah, that's unlucky for Hranovic. It just looked like it just got a little bit offline through the chicane there. It was Matt Strand who went off. Batala had a little bit of an issue through turn 5 as well, but otherwise pretty clean. Routmate looking now for P2. Oh, there's contact! Muscat came straight across his nose there into turn 12. It was a bit of a, not 100% committed lunge there from Rout, so 50-50 on that one, I'd say, but otherwise Muscat just holding on to P2.
Already our first retirement of the race, and that's Bernard. But also, just as I'm seeing, Argentina Fiera must have made a mistake. He just lost 2 places and has Edgar Weave just on his back end coming up to the start-finish straight. He's very close, but I don't think Edgar is going to have quite enough of an attack move. 12th place is under attack, though. Edgar did make a fantastic move on the inside.
There was a change in front of him, sorry. Fournier got past Van der Voort as well. Fournier fighting up from the back. But then he's just lost it into 2. And no, he's hold it. Maybe not. No, he has a little slide. And they're going to be side by side through 3. But Fournier just holds on. A little bit messy through 2, but managed to regroup.
Great stuff from Fournier coming back from the back of the, basically back of the grid. And Michael Bernard is our first retirement, as we said, and you did say you know who it was, that Wesley Stefano it was that we are missing this race. So that's a bit sad to see Hinz Motorsport actually losing on one of the cars. But with that said, we still have 20 cars, well, 19 cars now on the track. And this could be a very exciting race because we see a lot more battling now than we've seen it over the first lap as Ruel and Muscat are off the track.
That was on the exit of turn 11, wasn't it? And now Milan's having to defend again. Oh, contact between
Ruel and Muscat again.
There's a big stack there. Big stack.
Oh, Paolini just saving Ruel quite a bit of his skin
3 wide through 13. And there's contact between the 2 motor forces.
Oh no. That was very close for Siebel to actually completely spin around. This is a massive mess. A cluster of absolutely massive proportions. But now we see Polottek already losing a place to Siebel, who's on the attack to Jordan, 6th place. On their attack on the outside into turn 1. And Malta 4 scars maybe one after another again. If Siebel can hold it, he can't quite. Not enough grip on the outside. But Kill is under attack from Jordan on the outside of turn 2. How? And this is absolutely mental because all of these cars are in a little kind of a Tetris nearly puzzle kind of thing, with Polottek nearly attempting an attack into turn 4.
This was all kicked off by the contact between Muscat and Rout. Rout came off a lot better. He's P4 at the moment. Muscat all the way down to P11 after being spun halfway into the track. So that'll be one for the stewards to look at. But it's given us a great little battle here, isn't it, for P5?
Here's an interesting thing. That spin was Ruel getting hit by Muscat, in my view. And then, as he was spinning, he actually was about to spin properly, but then he got straightened out by one of the cars hitting him again.
Oh, hold on. What's happened to Polottek? He went wide and he's down to 9th. Oh, contact behind!
Oh, Van der Voort! Oh, Van der Voort inside! Oh! Muscat into Van der Voort. Van der Voort, I think that's the end of the race for Van der Voort, and I honestly think Muscat is done as well, and Riera also crashes on his own, I think.
So Van der Voort lost it through 10. He just got loose completely behind Polottek, and he spun into the middle of the track, and Muscat had nowhere to go, unsighted. And
Riera is, I think, has heavy damage because he's been struggling with keeping that car straight.
Yeah, Van der Voort's trying to get it to the end as well, back to the pits with no rear wing. So brave stuff there.
Very brave in this kind of a weather. And Fournier is actually a little bit of an under attack from Polottek, but Fournier up into 8th place from back of the grid. That's impressive.
Yeah, really good from Fournier. He's just kept it clean, hasn't he? And he's avoided all the drama and sitting nice in P8. You need some points after a disastrous first race. So doing well there. Mason's been into the pits. He's got no front wing. And Van der Voort obviously comes in as well. And Tapper's been in as well. Oh no, not again for Tapper.
Mason and Van der Voort, a little bit of a... it was a bit difficult for Mason to get out. But then again, I don't think he's going to be fighting for every 10th of a second right now. considering he's so far there.
Exactly. Hoekstra's broken away at the front with a 4.5 second gap to Milan. Paolini is having to hold on from Ruout, who's all over him for P3. Other close battles, Jordan has got Siebel behind him. Siebel looking pretty quick there, that's a P6. Otherwise, everybody, pretty line astern.
I think you're quite right, but Paolini makes a mistake, goes onto the AstroTurf, and Ruolt is right on the back wing. And Paolini makes a mistake into turn 14, and Ruolt is through.
He's still there, though. He's still there. Watch out for the nose of Paolini. No, he's not going to make a move.
He's through, but now watch for Paolini getting that slipstream into possibly turn 1, but I think, honestly, Ruolt has it. Paolini not even trying to get the slipstream.
Maybe he's trying to get a better sightline into turn 1, because obviously behind
you can barely see it.
The spray of Ruout, you can't see anything. Otherwise, there's some side-by-side action behind, I think.
Oh, there is. Oh, there definitely is. And there's a bit of action there with Feljanovic just overtaking Batal on the straight, but that's done for already for P14.
Siebel had a look at Jordan. That's what I managed to spot out the corner of my eye, but nothing doing into turn 1. And again, Fournier was having to defend a little bit from Bolotzek, both having the slipstream into turn 1, but couldn't do anything with it.
Interesting how to see Bolotzek being quite a bit quicker than Fournier. I wonder if that's, again, Bolotzek maybe pushing his tires a bit too much and possibly making a mistake by the end of the race. Remember, the sun finished about lap 4.5. So there's still a lot to go. There's nearly 20 laps to go. So these drivers have to watch out for the tires.
Exactly. It's big moment for Dennis Jordan in front of him. That was in turn 8 there, and he had a massive wobble, and his teammates had the same thing. They made contact through 9.
Oh, and again!
And they both got away just with it, but Jordan's lost 2 places. Both had a wobble through simultaneous corners and came together.
As behind him, there's an actual attack of Ruiz on Muscat, not quiet, but nothing doing there. But
so Ruiz did have a look, didn't he? He had a look into the 12, but nothing doing there. But yeah, disaster for the Evolution cars as they come together. Hopefully it hasn't done any damage to the cars, but it was a hefty whack between the front right and the front left wheels of both cars.
You would think that will be a bit of a discussion on the debrief for the team anyway. But definitely, I'd say that Dennis Jordan should have been a bit more careful coming back onto the track, if anything, on the field.
Exactly, as Mason exited in front of the Siebel-Fournier battle, but very respectfully gets out of the way. Great back marking.
Fournier attempts an attack on Siebel, actually, into turn 2, but not...
That was bold.
He just can't do that from so far back, but behind. Mason is letting them through. It looks like there's a bit of a battle.
Yeah, Mason is getting out the way as much as he can, and watch for Muscat. He's going to get passed by Ruiz because Muscat had to slow for Mason. And
but
now
no, Muscat goes for an undercut as Ruiz nearly loses control through turn 4.
Cracking move, absolutely cracking move there from Muscat. He saw that one coming and went right underneath him into 4.
So have a guess who's the fastest driver on the track right now?
Is it a Mr. Ruout?
It may very well indeed be a 2.5 quicker than Wopke Hoekstra last lap.
I was about to say he's closing the gap to Boyer Milan, isn't he, for P2 as... Oh, we've had a couple of retirements. Yeah. Riera's gone, Van der Voort's gone, and Mason have all gone within the space of this lap.
Van der Voort and Rob Mason apparently... Well, I can definitely see Rob Mason missing his front end entirely. He has not... It's not even the front wing that he's missing his entire front nose. While
I see what he's done actually. 6-7 chicane, he took too much curb, went over the anti-cut, and that ripped off the front end and then into the wall.
And then Van der Voort also is missing his front wings. And Rob Mason, sorry, Argenis Riera, I actually don't know what happened there.
I'm wondering if it could just be a disconnect because he just dropped at the same time the other two did. So.
No, it's weird because he actually did spin around in turn 5. And then I think he just decided to give it up.
Just parked it. Okay, well there we go then. So that leaves 16 cars running. One more drops, everybody's going to get points. So that'll be one to watch.
Another one like last time around. To be fair, the last race was exactly that. Every single person finishing the race did get points. However, at the moment, Wopke Hoekstra is leading this race by 1.8 seconds in front of Borja Milan and Stefan Ruolt, which is 4.5 seconds behind Wopke Hoekstra. And catching, mind you. So I'm just wondering if, because Roald and Milan are about the same pace, but Wopke Hoekstra is going slower, and is Wopke trying to save tires?
I don't know, because he's lost the 4-second lead he had, hasn't he? He's down to 1.6 seconds, and Roald is closing on Milan, so could we have a three-way battle for the lead?
Oh, wow. Stefan Roald just doing the massive middle sector. That's 8/10 quicker than Borja Milan, and 1 second quicker than Wopke Hoekstra. At the absolute record through the middle sector, so this could be another fastest lap of the race right there. No,
someone's turned the wick up, haven't they?
It is the fastest lap. It's a second quicker than Bora, and it is a further 2.5 quicker than Wopke Hoekstra. So Milan or Roald 3.5 seconds behind Wopke. Can he make those tires last? However,
I'm not sure. We're going to see what this sustained pace is going to do to them. Obviously, we're only on to lap 8 of this 23-lap race, so we're only about a third distance almost.
It's been early to be pushing, isn't it?
Yes, unless they do think they can manage it. A lot of drivers here are still on DirectX 9 driving with GitHub, so they do have a live readout of their tyre life and the expected life left as we
have a bit of a close battle between Muscat and Polotic. Polotic goes to the outside and off the track, and he cannot quite overtake there. It wouldn't be really legal, would it?
No, I think he just got a bit too close behind Muscat into turn 4, and Ruiz did the same thing actually. I think he went off in sympathy.
It's very easy to do it there. I think that that corner is very much off camber. There's only one line, and you have to hit it perfectly not to go off. That's how we always see people go off there, in real life and in Sims. As we have Borja Milan doing an incredible first sector.
Look how close he is. Look how close he is into the final sector. He's really right behind Hoekstra now as they come through 13.
And look at Roald. They're all very close. I think it's going to be a battle for the win between these three, or at least the lead for now, because I'm not quite sure how long the tires are going to last on either one of these three cars.
Yep, really close. Milan's going to duck out of the spray just to get some sight into turn 1. Slots back in, and yeah, great lap from Milan last time around, 37.3.
Still slower than Roald.
Agrees, but it's faster than Hoekstra, who did a 38.1, so they're both closing in, aren't they?
They have both been closing in on Hoekstra for the last few laps, to be honest. So that's not surprising. It's just surprising how fast Bora was through the first sector. But then Stefan Roald also did the absolute fastest final sector of anybody this race. And let's see how fast Bora is this sector. Stefan Roald is actually quicker by 2/10 than either of these drivers in front. And it could be still not as quick as last time around from Milan. But regardless, he's closing in. And this could be a three-way battle for the win. Possibly for the win, sorry. And we always love to see battles for the win, don't we?
Oh, of course. Obviously, it is early on, but it's added pressure for Wopke Hoekstra, isn't it? He's going to see two very fast Formula Renaults in his mirror, and he may be starting to worry a little bit. He's going to have to watch his pace, because Milan is really starting to close now. 6/10 is the gap as they come through into the final sector. So let's see what it is when we cross the line.
Top 3 cars from three different teams as well. The first teammate of any of the top 3 is Dino Paolini in 4th place, and that's the partner of Wopke Hoekstra. And he's not going to be helping him much with this battle. So no team love right here. This is going to be a full-out war.
Exactly. Roald made a little mistake coming onto the straight, got a little squiggly out the final corner, and that was again just getting onto the AstroTurf a bit. But otherwise, pretty fast lap there.
Milan going sideways into the first corner. I think he lost quite a bit of time there. I think it's just a matter of him making that bit more too fast of an entry and just braking a little bit too late. And it's always so easy to do when you're pushing, isn't it?
Exactly. And the problem now is he's close enough for Dirty Air to be a real problem. And especially around here, where you're so reliant on your high downforce and the grip on the car, he's really going to start struggling. It's going to start hurting his tyres as well. So it's not ideal, and that's why we've seen people really struggling to make a pass.
So here's a driver who's starting to push quite a bit as well. The fastest final sector of anybody, Alex Siebel. I think he is starting to slightly push, but on the other hand, he is right behind Kilk. Kilk is right behind Paolini, and who's behind him? It's Jeffrey Fournier, who's also about a second behind. This is an incredible train for 4th place.
Oh, we're gonna battle P10. Shepherd goes right around the outside of Rui into the 6-7 chicane. That's not gonna work, and Shepherd takes a trip over the anti-cuts. That was not ever gonna work too wide into the chicane there.
I'll be perfectly honest. One thing I miss in our Factor 2 that I have had happen to me in iRacing, for example, just to bring that one up, is underbody damage, because that would definitely do some of that to Shepherd. Definitely.
It's gonna hurt his back as well, going over that kind of bump. Yeah. Not nice at all, but yeah.
Thankfully, I don't think he has a motion rig strong enough, or at least one strong enough to really damage his back. Hopefully, at least.
Exactly. The gap now up front is now 1 second between Hoekstra and Milan, and Ruau instead has started catching Milan. So the tide of the battle is starting to swing up the front a little bit.
It will be very, very tough to get through, though. And we have seen it over the last race. We have seen it this race. This is a very tough track to overtake on. And we have not even got DRS to help us, because it is a wet race.
Exactly. I just had a report through from one of my drivers that it's 98% wet on that track offline, which is basically ice. So
that's a usual thing if it has been raining for a while in our Factors 2. If you don't know, usually if it's raining for a good while, if it's raining quite heavily, offline gets quite wet.
I'm going to point out something. Is it raining for you?
It is not.
I wonder if the rain stopped. Because that would throw in a complete new dynamic into this race, because we're not even halfway, and it's really hot still there.
It has. So I am seeing no rain, even when I'm stationary.
And the weather forecast would confirm the same thing.
Wopke Hoekstra is definitely making a bit of a mistake coming out of 14, though. I wonder if Borja is going to be able to keep up with Wopke, but then Ruold making just a bit of a mistake coming through that final corner. But Milan, maybe getting a bit of a run into turn 1. He's very close. Look, he has a look, but not quite close enough to make it into an attack move. But he is very close still, and he has a good run out of turn 1. Is he going to try into turn 2? I don't think he quite can.
We may have a battle on for P11 here. Polotsek's had a really bad exit out of the final corner, and Chris Shepherd is right on the gearbox. He's close enough for a decent slipstream, and maybe moving to turn 1. They follow each other. Polotsek hugs the pit lane wall. He really wants that inside line.
That's P11.
He's going to try and go right around the outside. Sorry, it is P11, isn't it? And yes. Side by side through turn 1. Shepherd can't make it stick, though. He may look into turn 2.
I think that he is going to try and lunge it on to turn 2, and not quite. Can he make it on the outside of turn 4? This will be very tough. Side by side for turn 4, that's always going to be scary as behind Trelianovic just barely saves the car. And Shepherd has the line into turn 5. I think he can just about make it. Polotsek not quite able to get the traction on the AstroTurf, and he just about makes it. Polotsek sticks it on the inside still. Can he make it into the
Shepherd's got that.
Wow!
Brilliant move from Shepherd there. That is what we said. You know, you've got to set up every corner correctly, and it's almost half a lap they've just been battling side by side. What I will point out is I can see the very tiny starts of a dry line through corners. It's nowhere near wide enough for anything like dry tyres, but we are starting to get a dry line, and we've only just ticked over halfway.
I don't think it will be dry enough for a motorcycle to take intermediates, let alone wet tyres off yet.
That is very true.
Well, up slicks. So yeah, I honestly don't think we're going to see the track dry out enough. As Trelianovic makes a mistake and Batala goes through into P13. That could be a battle as Polotsek still side by side with Shepherd through the final corner. P11 still going at it. Still side by side through start finish straight. And can Polotsek hold it into turn 1?
Oh, Shepherd made a mistake.
Makes a mistake. Polotsek back in, and Shepherd is going to lose that place to Batala.
And possibly Hranovic as well. Shepherd is struggling now. I think he broke on the white line on the outside, and he's going to run wide again. And Hranovic's going to understeer into him.
Sideways.
And that's a spin for Hranovic, and that is unlucky. I think he just outbraked himself and understeered into Shepherd there and spun himself. So unlucky for the Drake driver there. But
I'd like to point out the difference between the first 3 drivers in this race is the 1 second 2000. We're talking about drivers nose to tail, possibly looking at an attack on the next straight. This is at any point, any mistake from any of these drivers can and will mean that another driver gets an opportunity of attack. And all of these are going to be on tiptoes while trying to go so quick.
Exactly, and every time they're running different lines, either to defend or attack, they're going to start drying that part of the track up as well. So that may help them, you know, later on in the race as they search for different lines to try and make a pass.
It's a double-edged sword because you may
exactly.
not. You may at that point you may also not have enough water on the track if you're going to run it all off to cool down your tires whenever you need it on the straight. If you're going to hold onto the wet tire.
Exactly right. I think at the moment it's still a bit too wet, as Milan went a bit wide out of 4, but kept it together.
Of course, it is too wet right now, but later on it still could change. We still have 10 laps to go, remember?
Exactly, we've got plenty of time. Fournier made a little mistake through 4, but kept it on track. That was a P7 there. But yeah, otherwise it's relatively level everywhere, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's going to climb down a little bit. Although the top 3 is keeping within as small of a margin as I think humanly possible for drivers of this magnitude.
Exactly, it's what 0.5 at the moment between first and second. It's really close. Of course, we don't know if anybody needs to make a pit stop. We haven't completely, we haven't factored that element in yet. Hopefully, Oh, Milan's made a mistake there through 13. He's
that was a biggie.
Off.
That's a big loss.
How much has he hurt his tyres doing that? Is that Brew out in the pits?
That's Road coming into pits for a change of tyres. I think he killed his wet tyre.
This is huge. If that is the life of a pushed wet tyre, that's only 60% into the race. This is crazy.
Now here's the question. But to be honest, I don't think that's too mad because he now is going to be so much quicker than anybody else.
That is true. He's going to have fresh wets on a drying track, which is brilliant. Wipke Hutcher last time around though, fastest lap 35.9. This track is really getting faster now.
So now
greens and purples all over the place.
So now the question is. Well, the track is drying for sure. Ruolt is going to be on a fresh set of wets, but now Zeeble has shown that he can make these tires last pretty well for at least 21 laps. Can he easily make it at good pace until lap 23?
Tough one to call, isn't it? I mean, he's always shown well on his tires. The problem is he's stuck behind his teammate, and we know how hard it is to pass here. So. Depends which one's faster. Maybe Right Kilk may let him go. Otherwise, he's going to have to sit tight, really.
Remember, one of his championship rivals is at the very back end of Zeeble, and he is technically still challenging him.
Yep, Fournier's within a second, isn't he? And
he is.
He hasn't always been the best on tyres, but he's looking pretty quick at the moment. He's actually done a session best first sector and personal best second sector. So this is going to be a fast lap.
So far, the fastest lap of the race was last lap for Tobias Polacek. But I wonder what we're going to see from Ruolt. At the moment, his middle sector is really, really fast. But it's not a record. However, the tires may still be getting up to temperature.
Exactly.
And we may be seeing times that are going to be mind-boggling by the end.
Yep, Chris Shepherd's been in the wars. He's got no front wing, and I picked that up at the exit of 11 where he was in the runoff, so I can only assume he's dropped it through 10.
Talked about mind-boggling times. He did just do a mind-boggling time for last sector, 28.8. That is, well, a half a second quicker than anybody else on the track.
That's Jason Muscat, isn't it? P8, brilliant sector there. Fournier with the fastest lap last time round, 35.59. So time's really tumbling as Shepard comes in to fix that front wing.
Sorry, that time was from Ruolt.
Oh, was it?
Yes, Ruolt also fastest in the first sector. He's on fire on these new set of tires.
We're seeing the advantage now, and he's slowly closing up to Jason Muscat for P8, isn't he? So really, he has to hope that A, everybody in front of him pits, and B, he can dispatch a Muscat quickly, otherwise he's going to lose that advantage of the new tyres.
I think it's fast enough to just about do it into some corner where he isn't exactly expecting it. I think he may actually do it in 13 at this rate. Not with this kind of an exit.
No, the problem is now the dirty air. He's getting so close. He just has no grip coming over the car. You know, no aero on those wings, which means he's losing out into so many corners.
I'll be honest. At the latest, he's going to overtake him to turn 1 because his speed differential is just so huge.
He has to get a good exit though, doesn't he? Out of this final corner, he's gone a little deep. He's going to cut it in tight. Oh, that's a good exit, but he's held up.
Muscat did make a mistake, and now they're very close. This is a clear overtake for Ruel. This is going to be very easy. Just don't outbrake yourself, Stefan. Please.
Oh, he's
so close and doing it. Just not outbraking himself. He had to go onto the wet, and he did the fastest lap of the race, 1:34.9, while held up by Muscat. And now he has free track, and I think he's going to be doing some incredible stuff for the next 2 sectors, because this sector I highly doubt is going to be a record. Because he was held up again.
Also, if you look at the dry line, there is less spray coming off the back of the cars. As Muscat, is he going to go round? Yeah, he is. Half spin out of turn 4. He followed Ruau off onto the runoff, but just couldn't hold it. Had a little drift there, and that's cost some time. And now Ruiz and Polotzek are going to start closing up to him.
That's always a tricky thing to do. Wait, am I seeing this right? I am. We have our first slick.
Yes, we do.
Tire. We have Matt Strand on the slick tire, and I don't think he's really liking this tire so far. His last lap was just after him pitting out, and to be honest, he's doing a good job on the final sector, but I think he's just too wet.
I think it's a little too wet, but he's got, you know, nothing to lose, doesn't he? P15, he's got a point anyway, so it's worth a risk. And
looking at it, he's not actually doing too badly with the grip levels so far. As soon as he goes onto wet, he does.
Tater's curse.
Let's say that there's still a bit too much wet for you to attempt to do that, so. Wopke Hoekstra still doing well. Bormilan, second and a half, as we apparently have a bit of a battle for fourth between Zeeble and Kilk, and I don't think that's going to be a very fierce battle considering they're teammates.
It's a teammate battle there, and Stiff and Ruat were their fastest lap there as well, isn't it?
Fastest lap, second, or so fastest lap in a row from Stefan Ruel, 1:34.4. The record in the final second.
Yeah, the track is just really starting to dry now, isn't it? Every lap going faster and faster. But you know, given the limited time we have left, we only 6 laps ish. It doesn't really make sense to try a dry tyre now. I don't think we're going to get the advantage. If this was the feature race, it would make sense, of course. But here, I don't think we have the time.
Now, record in the first sector for Stefan Ruel, 32.5 again. Let's see for his second sector, his personal best in the second sector. This is looking like another record lap.
He's got those fresher tyres, hasn't he? So he's naturally going to be faster than everybody else just because he's got more rubber on the tyre. And
well, you still have to drive the car quickly. It's not as if it's given to you on a silver platter, is it?
Oh, exactly. That's very true. Very true. But he's doing brilliantly as he comes out the final corner. A little wise, but looks for a good exit.
I think he's got it, and it is the fastest lap of the race, is it? It is not by much, but it is a fastest lap of the race, 1:34.3.
Meanwhile, Hoekstra did have a 3-second gap at the front. I did switch to him, though, coming through turn 2, and he was offline a little wide, so maybe he went a little deep in there. Milan is still, a little way back, so he's not going to challenge him too much.
It's 2 seconds at the moment, and yeah, 2 seconds still a safe enough gap. But at this point, I think we're kind of having a bit of a stabilization, except for Kilk versus Siebel. I think Siebel is just trying to tell Ray, come on, I'm quicker than you. I can go by. Please let me by, teammate. Look how close they are, and Siebel goes onto the grass a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised Kilk hasn't let him go, to be honest, because I think it's pretty clear Siebel's faster. But we're not the boss of Multiforce. Their boss is driving, so yeah, not much team orders there. So
definitely not. And I just see the entire table, the timetable of the entire grid just green and purple. I think it's looking like Ruel is on another stunner of a lap. But yes, the track is definitely drying up, and the track is definitely getting much, much quicker.
Exactly. Ruel's actually closed up to Jeffrey Fournier for P7. It's really close now.
And Matt Strand has gone the fastest lap of the race on the dry tire. It looks like the dry tire crossover point is here. Matt Strand has just found it.
Right, but I think you'd lose too much time at the moment by pitting, unless everybody else pitted. So,
and Stefan just took it back by another 2/10, but definitely the crossover point is here.
We're at it,
yeah. But on the other hand, if you were to change the tires now, even if everyone else pitted in, overtaking would be even more of a nightmare.
Exactly, because you remember with that dry tyre, he can't run offline, otherwise he is literally going to be driving on ice, so he's going to struggle to pass anybody.
It's literally like driving in a tunnel on a snake, kind of
exactly.
thing.
Well, you have to drive on rails, don't you? You have to stay on that dry line, which is easier said than done in these conditions.
As Matt Strand actually just touches a bit of wet and goes backwards into a wall, loses both wings.
Oh no!
Literally just went half a tire into the wet, and this is exactly what happens and what we were talking about.
So that's 10-11. There's serious damage to the steering there. I can see it just leaning. He's done the sensible thing. He's made sure he's not on the racing line. He's going to try and struggle back and get a fresh set of bodywork on that car and hopefully try and get it to the end.
So I think another commentator's curse.
We've got to stop this, haven't we? It seems to be a recurring theme. Oh man!
Paolini goes sideways for turn 14. That was impressive.
Yeah, it was. He's really hanging on, isn't he, to that Majoric car?
Barely.
Obviously, Kilk has actually closed up to him, slightly behind him now, and is dragging Siebel with him. So, interesting times there.
Although Siebel has gotten a bit of a gap now. Maybe he just needed to drop back a bit just to get a bit more life into the tires, because we still have 3 laps to go. And to be honest, while the track is not very long, to be honest, in this kind of conditions, it is very demanding on the tires, especially with the drying line and if you're on the wets.
Exactly, those tyres are going to start overheating soon on that dry line, and you can see Paolini diving into the wet water. Wet water? Water is wet. But to cool off his tyres, you know what I meant.
I'd love to see dry water there.
Oh, that was a little bit of a brain stumble there, but the point still stands. He is trying to cool off those tyres and just get them to the end as he makes a little bit of a mistake through 7. That's a bit too much of the curb and has a little drift, but just holding on to P3. And oh, yeah, Fournier's had a little bit of trouble, our cameraman tells us, and Ruault is all over him for P7. Remember, Ruault on those fresher tyres, he's going to have to look for a bit of a bold move, I feel, maybe into 12. As they come out 11 now, he's going to have to get a decent run. This could
be an absolutely insane move, but he doesn't go for it. And very sensibly so. This is a very tough area to actually go through. But now Fournier, look how close it is. Coming through 14, going through. And Fournier just having a little bit of a wiggle. Going through the final turn, Fournier making a bit of a mistake. Right on the back end. I think Ruault actually has this. He's so close.
Just look at the exit Ruault gets. It's an amazing
so much
exit.
Better. But Ruault now on the outside of Fournier. Fournier not able to quite keep it going. There's contact, and Fournier keeps it. He just keeps it on the dry line. But now Ruault trying something absolutely insane on the outside line, on the dry line, not quite able to do it, and we're back to square one.
Ruault's going to be frustrated by that, but there was nothing Fournier could do. He was on the lot wetter tarmac. And on those worn, wet tyres, he's going to always struggle to get it stopped, isn't he? So there was inevitable contact. Oh, they've tangled!
And Ruault has just ruined his race a little bit right there. And to be honest, I think Ruault has compromised his race with that pit stop so much that, honestly, at this rate, it was just damage limitation. And right now, he compromised even that.
So unlucky for Ruault, though. Fournier took too much of the inside curb into 4 and slowed down because he had a wobble. Nowhere for Ruault to go. You're committed. It's a one-line corner. And there's nothing he could do, really, to avoid that. If he had broke, mid-corner, he was going to lose control anyway. So, tough times there for Ruault.
Well, Matt Strand will be very happy with his team career anyway. He's been setting purple sectors on his outlap. Purple sector on his first sector on his first time lap, really. And yeah, I think the wet tires are a bit off right now, but it's too late to change that because We only have...
We're on the final lap.
We are on the final lap. Whoopie Hoekstra is on the final lap, taking 2.5 seconds in front of Borja Milan, who's in front of Dino Paolini at the moment. And I think Siebel will be so frustrated by his teammate by the end of this race, don't you think?
Well, it's going to be an interesting debrief, I feel. But then, to be honest, the last few laps, Kilk has been slightly faster, so it's tough. They're so close on pace. You know, what do? Do you let one go and for the other one to catch up? You know, it's really tough.
I think generally this entire weekend is still a very good race for Malta racing. I mean,
exactly.
1, 2, and a 4 and 5 are both great results. It's just that
Fournier's been off, and he's got no front wing.
Oh no, I actually just heard that. I hoped there wouldn't be anything, but oh no. That's 3. Fournier. Fournier now going to have to limp it back to the finish